Hello and a pleasant good afternoon to everyone out there in Irish Breakdown land. Let's just say it was a great drive home, and I'm fired up to talk to Brian about this because we didn't have our normal banter back and forth.
Right, we had about 2 minutes of prep time.
Yeah, and
Vince just got home, and we're ready to rock and roll.
I literally just jetted out of there, got in the car, and believe it or not, the trail to Indiana was wide open. I don't think I've ever gotten from Lakeshore Drive to my driveway as fast as I did. So it was awesome. So kudos to the people directing traffic because they got me home fast. So I appreciate that. And I stayed till the final whistle, believe it or not, too. So just walked in the door 15 minutes ago. Brian, what did you think of that game? It was a huge win, obviously, for Notre Dame. That ended up being 41-13. Obviously, the final score is a little skewed.
I was thinking I was going to get it right. It was 24-13. Wisconsin had the ball. And I'm like, they're going to go down and score, go for two, not get it. And I'm going to look like a genius. Notre Dame stopped them, and they got a field goal to make it 27-13. And I'm like, man, Vince should have stuck with his 27-13 again. And then, of course, just they steamrolled them. And Notre Dame earned a big upset victory over Wisconsin. I still can't believe they were a 6.5-point underdog.
Ridiculous.
But there were some things from today's game, Vince, that are really exciting to talk about. There are some things we're going to discuss that are still very concerning. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame went away from home, played a solid team against Wisconsin, a solid, 8-9 win team, and handled their business. And, one of the keys that I had, one of the things I talked about in my keys to the game and in my what to look for is defensively, I want to see this defense finish. I want to see them finish at the quarterback. I want to see them finish on ball carriers. I want to see them finish games. And holy moly, did they finish this game.
Oh, my goodness.
Notre Dame's defense and special teams outscored the Notre Dame offense. And the Notre Dame defense outscored Wisconsin by itself.
Facts. Yes, absolutely.
That was a great performance. I thought offensively they did some things that were bad, but then they took advantage of the defense. All of Notre Dame's offensive points came off defensive turnovers, right? Now you could say, well, that's great about the defense, but hey, the offense had to capitalize.
Absolutely.
And two of them turned into touchdowns. And so it was a good team game. The defense started kind of giving up a little bit. They gave up that long shovel and they go down and score. And then bam, Chris Tyree takes it back to the house. Like, this was a team victory. And to me, that's the thing I like. Now, one part of the team played a whole lot better than the other part of the team, but everybody played into this win. And that to me is a great takeaway. It also feels good to be 2-0 against the Big Ten. I can't say I hate that. I would also say that, what does it say that Toledo and Florida State played Notre Dame more competitively than their Big Ten opponents? I just had to say it. Okay. But look, this is a team that still has not come close to reaching its peak, and they're 4-0. And they just beat a team that a lot of people apparently were predicting Notre Dame was going to lose this game. Every single person at Irish Breakdown predicted this win. So the Negative Nancy site, everybody picked the Notre Dame victory. And I don't think any of us saw 41-13 coming.
Well, no, but that kind of happened at the end with the pick sixes and, things of that nature.
Right.
If that game ended with –
though.
Me too. Don't get me wrong. Me too. It's just from a prediction standpoint, you and I were like right on the money there if the game would have ended 5 minutes earlier, But, hey, kudos to Notre Dame for putting their foot on their throat and just putting it away. Yeah. I mean, that was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. And outside of one drive, I thought this defense played really one play, essentially. I mean, I'd
say two plays for me. The long pass early and then the shovel pass in the second half.
Okay. Yeah, that shovel pass was annoying. But yeah, and when they scored that touchdown, it was two slants in a row. I mean, and it was Notre Dame basically they were inviting the slant with the defense that they were playing. It was so obvious that they should run a slant there. But then they kind of gave it right back to Notre Dame because it was so obvious that Notre Dame needed to run the slant. And when they scored their touchdown, that I was like calling for it from the press box.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, look, it was a great win for Notre Dame. I think it was a statement win for Notre Dame because the national media thinks that Wisconsin's this amazing team,
right?
And they think Notre Dame's not. So they had to win this one. And so many people are just going to look at the score. It's just a fact.
Correct.
They're going to look at 41-13 and they'll be like, whoa, maybe we should pay attention to this Notre Dame team.
Yeah.
That's all they're going to do.
Yeah.
That's all they're going to do.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I like about this too, Vince, this is an adversity game. This was an adversity game. There's all this talk about how you're down to your third string. They played their 4th-string left tackle at one point in time in this game. Your starting quarterback gets hurt. Your number 2 dynamic freshman quarterback's hurt. He can't play. Your 3rd-string quarterback, that's what they kept calling him, 3rd-string quarterback. He's been listed as the 2nd-string quarterback all fall. He was always going to play if Jack went down. They were not going to turn the reins over 100% to Tyler Buckner.
It was going to be the same game plan with Tyler Buckner with his package. That's what it was going to be.
So he comes in and, first drive, he makes a couple throws. They settle down. He comes out, he gets hit. And then, it's like, okay, here we go. Right. But he battled back. The defense picked the offense up when all that happened. The special teams picked the defense up. That's why I say, Vince, it was an adversity game. They fell behind early, took the lead, fell behind again early in the fourth quarter, and then came right back. This game actually went in a way that, to me, is going to be better for this football team than if they would have just jumped all over Wisconsin early and buried them and won 41-13 because they just routed them. I think this team is going to learn a lot more about itself from how they had to win this game. I mean, this was a physical game. I thought Notre Dame was the more physical team. That was my final takeaway from this big picture takeaway was Wisconsin battled. Wisconsin's physical. Notre Dame was more physical. But at the end of the day, the biggest difference is what you and I have been saying. The biggest difference was going to be all year long. Since this game first started becoming the hype machine and Notre Dame is underdog, they do not have enough speed to hang with Notre Dame.
No.
They do not.
No.
And we saw that today.
On both sides of the ball.
Correct. Notre Dame rushed for 3 freaking yards and still beat Wisconsin by 28.
That's true. And again, sack
because
yardage.
Why? Speed.
But speed,
well,
yes.
But they ran for 39 yards on 20 carries to the running backs.
Absolutely.
Less than 2 yards a carry to the running backs.
It's a terrible run game performance.
Right.
Terrible. And look, Notre Dame can't be one-dimensional.
And they still won by 28. That was my whole point, Vince, is because we'll get into the offense, trust me, is this team faced a lot of adversity today, and still it's like it didn't faze them. It's almost like, okay, Wisconsin thinks they got some momentum. They're playing that stupid jump around song. Oh, and by the way, Pete Sampson tweeted after the game that the Notre Dame players were playing jump around in the locker room after the game.
Of course they were.
Freaking loved it. Freaking loved it.
That's awesome.
So, Vince, we're going to dive into the defense first because we're going to talk about the good part of the game. But before we do that, we do have some super chats I would like for us to be able to get out of the way. So let's dive right in before we talk about the Notre Dame defense.
I got one from Tommy Guns here. I tried to stay on it so it wouldn't go away from us. Tommy Guns says, when did Wisconsin sign Oprah to play quarterback? You get a pick, and you get a pick, and you get a pick 6. Interceptions for everyone. That's really good.
You know what I liked about it? He threw, 4 picks in the game, correct?
Something like that.
They were all Notre Dame guys making plays.
Absolutely.
That's the thing I liked. Like, I mean, he's got to see Cam Hart has inside leverage on that second interception. The first interception, I don't necessarily blame him for. That was a great play by Cam Hart. Now, he's got to place that ball on the guy's back shoulder. He's got to see the corners inside and put that thing on the guy's back hip, I should say. But he didn't. But that was a great play by Cam Hart. Cam Hart made another great play later, which his 2 picks resulted in 10 points. The Jack Kaiser just baited him into that pick 6, and then they tip a ball that Drew White takes back to the house. So, to me, that's the bigger thing. It wasn't like he was just throwing the ball like out in the middle of nowhere and the free safety's picking it off. I mean, they forced those interceptions.
There were a couple of those where I hoped that was going to happen, and it didn't.
Forced 5 turnovers in this game because then Jayson Ademilola, despite getting his face mask ripped, reaches out. And Vince, this defensive performance, we hardly heard Kyle Hamilton's name today.
Yeah, only
because of how they used him, right? Like he had a nice blitz, and they used him to kind of, like we said, he played center field a lot, which we talked about. Now they brought him down on some pressures and did some things, and
they had him one-on-one on Ferguson a few times too.
Right. He covered him well, but he was playing back a lot today too. And it was, okay, we need other guys to step up. And at every level of the defense, somebody stepped up that wasn't considered a stud. Yeah. And so, Jayson Ademilola stepped up, sure.
But so did Howard Cross.
That was the thing about the defensive performance. Riley Mills balled out today. Jordan Patelho, Drew White had the best game of his career, which we'll get to. I mean, Cam Hart balled out. It was an impressive performance.
Yes, absolutely.
But I do love that reference. Like, you get a pick and you get a pick and you get it reminded me of that scene of that remember that John Christ skit where he's like the football coach? He's like, I'm down to patino some guys, but not for these guys. I'm not going to jail for these guys. You know, you get a sack or you get, that's the scene I had in my head when Tommy did that. It was great.
Yeah, he talks about the offensive line. He goes political on it, but it's just really funny.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's like Obama's immigration policy. Let everybody through.
I didn't know if you were going to go there, but
it was a funny skit. If you can't laugh at that, then just lighten up. It's
just hilarious. Hilarious.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh man, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, let me find some more super chats here, Brian. Patrick Barnes, credit to Coach Driscoll. He called it when Wisconsin got behind and had to speed up. The wheels fell off for them. And
they are not a come-from-behind team.
And there were numerous times where Notre Dame did a great job on first down. Remember that. We talked about that on Thursday's show. Their first down was the key. If they can get Wisconsin behind the chains, then they got to throw the ball and they got to do things that they're not comfortable doing. Notre Dame shut down Wisconsin's run game, and they kept trying to run the ball on first down, and they were not very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what did they have? They had 74 yards on the ground. 74.
Mm-hmm.
74. Okay.
And they were like at 63 until like the last drive of the game.
Yeah.
When they kind of ran a couple plays late. Yeah. Because when I was originally writing my game story, I had them down at 63 after that last pick six. Gotcha. And they went for 11 yards in the last drive or so.
Gotcha. Searcher Green, our guy Searcher Green, thank you for the super chat, says slightly better play in the first half, and my 56-point prediction would have easily
hit it.
Who knew that was going to happen?
Seriously.
Man? Jeez. I did not see 41. Look, I said in the show that if Notre Dame hits 30, they win the game.
Well, the thing that you and I did say is that we could see this being we talked about this twice. If Notre Dame plays their game, they can blow Wisconsin out. They didn't play their game, and they didn't really blow Wisconsin out. This was a competitive game for 3.5 quarters. And it was. I mean, heck, Wisconsin had a lead in the fourth quarter. I mean, they went up 13-10 in the fourth quarter, and then Tyree took it right back. So certainly I truly did not see it playing out that way. No, I'm not shocked that Notre Dame won 41-13. I'm shocked that the offense was as bad as it was, and they won.
The manner in which it happened was shocked. 21 non-offensive points.
And I do want to say something. He says that was not an upset. Hence the air quotes.
Yeah, not to us. I mean, it was never an upset to us, and I frankly had a hard time doing all the radio shows that I do and doing all the podcasts and everything, just taking the 6.5-point thing seriously. Like usually I can understand where some of this stuff comes from. Like I get it.
Never got this.
Didn't get it. I really did not get it.
A touchdown favorite over Notre Dame. Give me a break.
They were never down 6.5 points in the game.
Yeah.
Ever.
All I know is you're floating me alone this week, Vince. Okay, for dinner. Because you
it's a lot of $5
you had a good week. Okay,
they hit, baby. Okay. Anyway, D Beasy, thank you for the super chat. Says let's get this out of there from the jump. The O-line coach needs to go. Let me tell you something, D Beasy. I don't know if you noticed. I was watching the TV copy while I was up in the press box. One of the first people he hugged after the game, like after he got Gatorade dunked, was Coach Quinn. So.
Which that doesn't surprise me because he's been with the guy for 30 years.
I know. I
turned to my wife and I joked to my wife and I said, do you think Coach Quinn was listening here? Please don't fire me. Please don't fire me. Please don't fire me. I literally said that to my wife. She got it.
I thought some similar things when I saw that going down. But
embarrassing.
But anyway.
And they still won by 28.
Yeah. And which is why
what we keep saying. Imagine what this team could do if the offensive line was just average.
Yes. Precisely. Bye. Jay with the super chat. Thank you, Jay. Says Mertz has more TD passes to Notre Dame defenders than his own offensive weapons so far this year.
Yeah.
Yikes. That's true.
Well, he threw 3 touchdown passes today, right?
Yep. 2 to Notre Dame.
One to Kendrick Austin, 1 to Jack Kaiser, 1 to Drew White. So
the fact that Drew White was able to score on that was even more impressive than Kaiser scoring.
Yeah, dude's athletic, man. I keep telling you.
I'm telling you, he's like bobbing and weaving. And
that was phenomenal. I was like, I hope. Because if he doesn't take it to the house, they were going to take a knee. That's why I was glad
absolutely.
he scored, because 41-13 just to me looks a whole lot better.
Looks way better. Johnny Jimenez had it 42-13 on Thursday's prediction show. 1 point off. Well done, Johnny. Well done.
I highly doubt that your 42-13 looked like played out
right.
out.
If it did, hey,
they're going to have a kick return. And although we had a lot of people in the chat on was it Thursday show, the prediction show, talking about they're going to get a defensive touchdown this week.
And somebody said this is going to be a defensive touchdown and a special teams touchdown.
Yes, there was somebody that said that. Yep, there was. I wish I would have remembered who said that, but yeah, we had
Whoever
people predicting that. Yes, you better play the lottery this week. That's all I'm saying.
Right, exactly. Will Claw, thanks for the super chat, man. Big Marcus Freeman fan right now.
All that BVG bull crap can kind of go out the window. We'll talk about that when we get into the defensive thing. But yeah, he forgot how to coach apparently the first 2 games, and then he remembered the last 2 weeks. And whatever.
Right. Yeah, well, anyway. Let's see. Michael Burke, thanks for the super chat. Says you talked during the week about O-line looking like we did our job, and on fumble by Pyne, Baker pushed the defensive end into him and then jogged after the fumble. He didn't jog after the fumble. That's as fast as he goes. Like he was running after it, and I don't. Was it Baker that got?
Yeah, it was. Okay. And we'll get into this too, but it was a blown protection. He thought he had inside help.
Yeah.
So he kind of just pushed inside, and the guard worked inside, and it was just a I mean,
didn't
the
work.
number of blown protections. Like, it's one thing if a guy just beats you. Hey, he just was better than me. The number of blown protection sacks they've had this year is disturbing. And that they're still doing it in game 4. How troubling is it? And we'll get into this again. How troubling is it that so far Notre Dame's 2 most fundamentally sound offensive tackles are a pair of true freshmen?
Yeah.
Blake Fisher in the opener, now Joe Alt. If that doesn't say everything you need to know, then I don't know what else I can say to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get some dad love in here. Mr. Ademilola jumping in after the game. Thanks for joining us, man. He says, why is the national media not speaking about Jayson yet? Gets double teamed and still does his job today. 5 tackles, 4 solos, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 19 tackles in 4 games. Can you please explain? He's our dude, man.
Yeah, I don't get it.
We don't get it either.
I mean, we write about it all the time. We've been talking about it since the summer. And it honestly, what it comes down to is the national media, sadly, is very lazy, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
And they talk about things like, like all the hype about Kane Madden. I can't believe I had somebody say, I can't believe Kane Madden has played this way. I'm like, why? You've listened to my show all summer. Why does it surprise you?
Right.
But they just went with the Pro Football Focus grades, and they went with, all this other nonsense, and they don't pay attention. Jayson didn't start last year, right? And you really think they were breaking down the Alabama game, watching him destroy Deontay Brown and Emil Ekiyor? No, they weren't watching that. They just looked at the 31-14 score and just assumed that whatever. So it's about laziness, really, to me.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think Notre Dame does a whole lot to push them either, to be honest with you. I mean, the only guy we really hear talked about is Kyle Hamilton, understandably so. But I mean,
really
to his point about the double teams, that I wrote about this in my game observations. Wisconsin was very concerned about Jayson Ademilola, and they still couldn't block him.
Right.
And part of the thing is they were so focused on double teaming him a lot of times that's why the linebackers were just running free the whole game. So, the
defensive line.
But I think this is a game that should kind of wake some people up to that.
It better. I mean, it should. It absolutely better. Jayson's been playing just insane all year long.
I think one thing that hurts him too is because the line as a whole so good, it can kind of take away from one guy being great.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, wow, they just, everybody plays well.
I think almost everybody on the line made at least one play today where they were spoken about, at one point or another.
I think Nana's probably the only one that I don't remember his name being talked about.
Okay, fair enough.
That's about it. But he had a couple nice plays too. I mean, where he was where he needed to be. But yeah, you're right. Jacob Lacey. I mean, everybody.
Howard Cross, Riley, Mills. Foskey.
Yeah.
Myron,
is that the last of the super chats, Vince?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, it's not.
No, I wasn't interrupting. I'm saying if it was, I was going to transition into the defensive line.
We got a couple more. We got a couple more. Demetrius Rex.
I wasn't coming at you.
No, we got more. Demetrius Rex. Thanks, man, for the super chat. He goes, never a doubt. Yeah, right. He goes, except for when I was pooping my pants, anxious at the game yesterday.
So Demetrius on Thursday was super confident. They're going to win. He was like, I think he had like the first chat in the game prediction thread, and it was like, they're going to win. And by Friday, he was like, man, I'm super nervous about this game. Like in a day. And I get it, because when you're not in control, exactly. I certainly get that. But it was an interesting game. I'll be honest with you, Vince, up until the point that they went up 13-10 in the fourth quarter, I never really felt like Wisconsin had a chance to win this game.
No, me neither. And as soon as
I did get a little nervous at 13-10. I'm not going to lie to you.
I was a little nervous because the offense hadn't really done anything to make me feel confident. But as soon as Chris Tyree took that to the house and it got, again, a special teams play, turning things around, getting momentum on your side.
Completely deflated Wisconsin.
Absolutely. Like as soon as that happened, I was sitting in the press box, right? You got to be quiet. You're not allowed to cheer. Okay. Yeah. And as soon as he hit that, I could see the hole because he caught it. So the press box is set up where we're in the corner. All right. And so he caught it right in front of me. I could see the hole. Like I was on the helmet cam of Chris Tyree. As soon as I saw that hole, my hands go up like this. People start making fun of me. I was like, it's a touchdown, man. Like, I mean, it was so obvious and it was so awesome. It was so awesome.
He hit it real fast.
Absolutely. Last one I think that we've got at the moment. Lawrence Adams, thanks for the super chat. My guy says, winning feels great. Fix the O-line and we can be elite. D will be top-notch by November. Fingers crossed that we figure it out and make the playoff with real speed and talent. I think the defense is elite now.
I think the defense became elite on September 25th.
Right. I mean,
before we dive into the defense, there's one comment. David Littlefield said, love the unis today. Okay, I got a comment on the unis real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I did not like them on Twitter. I did not like the way they looked when they released them. I didn't like any of it. I thought they looked really good on TV.
Okay.
I did not like those uniforms.
Yeah.
But on TV, they played well. I thought they looked really good on TV. Because I remember the 2015 uniforms I thought were the sweetest Shamrock uniforms. Those were all greens against Boston College and Fenway. They were the sweetest Shamrock uniforms in person. They looked terrible on TV. You couldn't see numbers.
Right.
But I thought these played well on TV. I was surprised at how well they looked on television. So I was pleasantly surprised with how well they looked. So
I thought they looked great from far away. I kind of, am I promoting for them to be the home uniforms? No. But I kind of dug the stripe on the pants and I kind of dug the color.
Better than the mustard, at least it takes away from that a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. I dug it. And they kept the gold helmet. So that's
I know you love that.
Thumbs up for me. That. So but that's all the super chats we have at the present, Brian.
So Vince, let's talk. Let's kick the actual analysis off with the defense.
Okay.
First of all, huge props to Marcus Freeman today. I thought the job he did getting this team ready for this game was really impressive. Oh
yeah.
I thought that number one, I thought this team came out with an edge. This team came out with an attitude where it was kind of like everyone's talking about how good. Here we go. Hold on a second.
I thought you might want to hit that.
Huge super chat by Shelton Hager. Shelton, thank you very, very much.
Man, that's awesome.
I'll be honest with you on this, Shelton, because normally we've kind of said, hey, we're not gonna just take super chats right away when we go, but this is a big one, so I really appreciate that, man. That's big time. But when they went to review Cam Hart's touchdown, I looked at my wife and I said,
"No way they hold
that's
that
a touchdown, clearly, but they're going to overturn it because that's just what they do." And they didn't. And so, but I mean, there was times like there was a play where like Jayson Ademilola gets almost turned around, no call. Jordan Patel gets his jersey ripped, no call.
Right.
It just was kind of like you see that over and over and over again, and it's just kind of like but I'll say this. I don't think that they did a bad job because I think they were consistent. They let them play physical football today. This is a Big Ten conference tournament basketball game. Basically is how they called this game today. But they did it both ways. There was a couple times I thought, oh, they're going to throw a flag on Notre Dame DB. They didn't. I thought they didn't call a good game, but they called a consistent game. And as a coach, that's what I can live for that. As long as I know what to expect, because then I can have my guys go do what they're letting those guys do, then that's cool. I didn't like there was pass interferences that they didn't call on the Wisconsin guys, but there was a couple that I thought maybe they could have called on Notre Dame as well.
Yeah.
and didn't. So at least it was not a very well officiated game, but at least it was consistently called.
The one on Braden Lindsey, did you think that was pass interference?
No, because it was so underthrown.
Okay.
And I thought that the DB at least kind of went up like he was trying to make, because remember, in college, you do not have to turn back to the ball. That's just an NFL rule. Okay. You have to at least try to make a play for the ball. And I thought he was reaching up, trying to make a play for the ball.
I mean, he went, yeah. So, okay.
If it was a little better thrown, then I probably would have wanted a flag on that, but it was so poorly underthrown that I wouldn't have. I was okay with that not being called.
Okay.
Because I felt like the guy was in good position. He was playing the post route well, and then Braden went up for it. I think Braden's got to do a little better job playing.
It was underthrown. I mean, that's why there was contact.
And he didn't run through him. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like Braden stopped and he just trucked him. So I personally did not think that was – I was okay. Would I have been upset if they'd have called it pass interference? No.
Yeah.
Was I upset that they didn't call it? No, not really, because you got to put a better ball out there. And we'll get into that. But back to the defense, Shelton, again, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Very, very, very much for that super chat. Very much. I thought one of the things I wrote about in my keys to the game is you've got to keep Wisconsin off balance. And I thought they did a great job of that today. Mm-hmm. They played 3-4 at times. They played 4-3 a lot. They played 4-2-5 at times. They played 4-4 early in the game, Vince.
Yeah.
Where they were using Jordan Patel as a fourth linebacker, basically, because they had the Rover, they had Jack Kaiser in the game, they had the Mike, the Will, and then they had Jordan Patel basically playing like a linebacker position. Then they would come out the next series and be in more odd fronts. And there was at times like somebody talked about like a 52. Well, there's a couple times they were kind of lined up and like it looked like a 52. And if you actually look at what guys are listed as on the depth chart, it was a 52. But they were using Jordan Patel as more of a linebacker on that particular play. But he had Wisconsin off balance. I thought Marcus Freeman said, okay, and this is what you and I talked about during the week. Okay, they're bigger than us. And when Kurt Hinish is out, they're much bigger than us. So we could either pound our head against the wall and try to play big boy football and play right into their hands, or we can say, hey, look, that's fine, but we're faster than you. And he let them attack the whole, almost the whole game.
I was going to bring that up in a minute. But
they were aggressive. I mean, they were – and Mike Elston, if – Jason's not getting enough credit as a defensive tackle. Mike Elston is not getting nearly enough credit for the kind of defensive line job he's done. If you are a defensive line coach, high school, Pop Warner, whatever – this is teaching tape material for you.
Yeah.
The leverage, they were constantly beating Wisconsin off the ball. They played with great leverage all day. The block destruction technique today from the entire defensive line was phenomenal. They did a great job with Foskey and Myron Tagovailoa at taking on the counters and the pulls. Wisconsin could not get their stretches going at all because the edges were just hammering it, crashing it.
One of the things that
penetration was great as well. Go ahead, Vince.
One of the things we talked about in order for this team to be successful today was the defensive front controlling the line of scrimmage so that the linebackers could flow. They did that all day. Wisconsin could not get to the second level. They couldn't.
I mean, when we're talking about how Notre Dame can't get a 6th-year guard and a 5th-year senior right tackle and a senior, 2-year, 3-year starter center going on offense. Notre Dame can lose a guy is going to finish his career playing more games than any player in Notre Dame history in Kurt Hinish. Jayson Ademilola is a 3-year guy, but there's also a lot. Howard Cross hasn't played a ton of football. Jacob Lacey's been banged up the last year and a half. Nano Safa-Mensah, where the heck did he come from? He's never played a meaningful down in his life until this season.
Right.
They had to change positions with Justin Ademilola like right at the beginning of fall camp after he played big end all last year. And lo and behold, this defensive line is playing elite football, and it doesn't matter who they put in the game.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
Riley Mills goes in there, dominates. Jacob Lacey goes in there. Him and Myron Tagovailoa just blow up the line. They were crushing Wisconsin in short yardage stuff. Did you see the snap where they went out on – there wasn't even a goal line. It was a 3rd and short. They had back-to-back plays. One of them was the 4th and 1, and then the play right before that.
Okay.
They had 7 defensive linemen on the field. 7 defensive linemen, and basically dared Wisconsin to throw the ball. Wisconsin said, nope, we're not going to throw the ball. And Notre Dame said, fine, you're not going to get a first down.
You're not going to get a first down either.
They were physical. Their technique was tremendous. The game plan was excellent. They were penetrating, and they were smart with their aggressiveness. You know what we did not see a lot of today? line stunts. We saw hard twists, hard slants, and vertical
but
charges.
not a lot of this.
Yes,
like
because that's what Wisconsin wants you to do.
holes.
Exactly. If they catch you in one of their gap schemes and you're doing that, they're going to blow it open.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame stayed patient. And it was an excellent game plan. It was a diverse game plan. They had times where they were playing off coverage, times they came up and played tight coverage. They had Graham Mertz, which isn't really hard to do. They had Graham Mertz guessing the whole game. I mean, he had 2 really nice throws the whole game, and that was it.
I thought that they really showed who Graham Mertz was.
Yes.
Yes, he was a highly touted kid coming out of high school, but he outside of
Notre
that
Dame
game
wanted
against
him.
Illinois.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of that game against Illinois, his first game where he threw 5 touchdowns, he hadn't done anything, and they put him in position to, hey, you need to win the game for Wisconsin, and he couldn't do it. He could not do it.
Right. We got another super chat from Shelton. He explains why he's so willing to give us some money today for the super chats. Because I'll be honest, Notre Dame made me $1,000 today. Only Fred and I share the love. The rest were horrible in this game, but I've never seen worse than the Penn State Auburn game. Yeah, they didn't make Notre Dame punt on 3rd down. So Sheldon, definitely not. But yeah,
you're awesome, dude.
Save the rest of that $1,000 for yourself, buddy. I know you got some little ones, but we appreciate it.
Thanks. That's
very,
fantastic.
very much. I don't think I think the refs were bad. I'll say again, it's just more of they were consistently bad. And as a coach, that's all you can ask for. Like you're going to make the same missed calls every time. You're not calling holdings today. You're just not calling holding. You're not calling pass interference really today unless it's a mugging. Okay,
there
at least now I know.
There were some legit holds that were not called.
Oh gosh, and they still dominated.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, they called a cold. They could have called. There was one play, Vince, where there was literally 3 holds on the play of and they still forced Graham Mertz out of the pocket.
Yeah,
like they held 3 of the 4 defensive linemen, and they still got pressure.
It's like as a baseball coach in the strike zone. If it's consistently bad, if he's constantly calling high strikes or whatever. Fine, we'll adjust, and that's what you do in a football game. If they're going to be consistent, you adjust and you go with it. And I just thought this defense played amazing.
Great game plan, great execution. I mean, I look, and one of the knocks on Notre Dame in recent seasons has been they're just not a great run defense. And the first couple games, they were not a great run defense.
Well,
thank you.
That's changed.
And my wonderful wife bringing me some drinks. I'm not quite done with it yet, but thank you very much. She was going to take the drink that I was working on because she's sweet like that. But,
I stole my Gatorade from Field.
One of the things about this game, Vince, is that Notre Dame was able to shut down the Wisconsin because of the play of the line. They were able to shut down Wisconsin's ground game without having to overcommit to the run.
Right.
That's hard to do. Mm-hmm. Look, I'll get some context. Notre Dame held Wisconsin to 73 yards today. In the last 4 seasons, Wisconsin only been held under 100 yards rushing 3 times, including today. 3 times.
Including today, 3 times in the last 4 seasons. Once this year, Iowa did it to them last year, and then a couple years before that, Ohio State did it to them. That's it. 3 times they've been held under 100 yards. Notre Dame held them to 73. And even here's the other thing. Notre Dame had 1 sack today? Yeah, they didn't really sack him.
Right. That 1 sack for 0 yards essentially. Because I think they counted that strip as a the fumble because they recovered it. They mark it as where they recovered it and the ball went forward. So it wasn't any lost yardage.
Sure.
And so which is kind of strange. But anyway, Wisconsin had 0 sack yards that they gave up. And they still held them to 74 yards rushing, excuse me. That did it without overcommitting. And that's so important because that limits the big plays in the pass game that Wisconsin thrives on. That makes you more vulnerable to the perimeter screens, which I thought Notre Dame mostly ate up today. The shovel pass was the only time Notre Dame really got beat, and they just misplayed that. But Kyle Hamilton made a great play on that, Vince, because he was kind of bobbing and weaving. And if he doesn't make that tackle, maybe –
yeah, because he made the tackle around the ankles.
Right.
Held on for dear life.
I just was incredibly impressed by the game plan today by Marcus Freeman. But look, a game plan's only as good as the players that execute it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And they did a great and it was such good team football. There were some issues at corner we'll talk about, but overall, I mean, great tackling, assignment correct. There were no blown assignments in the run game. Like the most you could look at is like there was like a 9-yard gain once where the backside guy just got knocked back a little bit. Wisconsin's longest run today was 10 yards. They had one carry for 10 or more for 10 yards, and the rest were single digit runs or negatives.
Yep.
And Notre Dame didn't have a ton of negatives today. Like they weren't like
they only had 4 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
I mean, the flow of that game and the way it went and the manner in which they shut down Wisconsin's run game, it felt like there were more than that. It really did. But they were meeting them at the line of scrimmage. And so there was a lot. I wish there was a stat for like no gains, because there was a lot of no gains as well. And so they didn't necessarily have a lot of tackles for loss, but we talked about when the defensive line is able to eat up those offensive linemen and the linebackers can flow, they meet the running back at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. And that's what was going on. And therefore, Wisconsin was getting behind the chains. So that just happened over and over and
was
over.
The biggest key, Vince.
Yeah.
They had Wisconsin off schedule all day because they were so good on first and second down.
They didn't get a third down conversion until I think the third quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, they were 0-6 in the first half.
I mean, first drive of the game, you know, they throw that 22-yard pass, first third down, 3rd and 6, incompletion. Wisconsin's next drive, 3rd and 13, because they had Howard Cross had this is the thing with Wisconsin. First play of the second series was Howard Cross gets a tackle for loss on the street. Once you do that to Wisconsin, they're done.
They're done.
3 and out. Yep. They tried to run a screen. Isaiah Foskey sniffed it out. Next drive, they get to 3rd and 3, complete a 2-yard pass, ate it up, get to 4th and 1. That's when Myron Tagovailoa and Jacob Lacey blew them up. Next series, they get to a 3rd and 1. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's offense. They get into 3rd and 9, and then Kyle Hamilton got called for a personal foul, which, I mean, by the rule, it's a penalty. Yeah. Then they get to 3rd and 10, and they're forced to drop back and throw. And when they're forced to throw, they run a lot of intermediate routes. Notre Dame had a great preparation for it. You don't pick those routes off the way that Cam Hart did it twice if you're not prepared for it.
Absolutely.
That's great preparation by the coaching staff.
Yep.
3rd and 10, interception. 3rd and 5, they actually called a break on that late second quarter, 3rd and 5, because Clarence Lewis got beat and Mertz just overthrew him. You get to the second half, 3rd and 8, had to dump off. You get force an incompletion and they punt. Then they got a short field, right? Or they had the long shovel pass on first down. Never got to a 3rd down on their next touchdown drive. Then they get into a 3rd and 10, and then they ran a screen that Jayson Ademilola and Clarence Lewis ate up, force a punt on 3rd and 10. They got a 3rd and 1 conversion on a fullback dive.
The fullback. That was the first 3rd down conversion of the game. Yeah.
3rd and goal, and they can't get a 3rd and goal. Notre Dame forces a field goal. I mean, it was that way the whole game, Vince. It was you kept them in 3rd and medium so long the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Wisconsin cannot beat a good team that way. They just can't. And that's why I say, as bad as the offense was today, Notre Dame rushed by stats 32 carries for 3 yards. Now again, sacks are included in the team taking a knee. So let's go 4 yards on 31 carries, because I still think that's stupid that they count that as a rush.
I agree.
But 4 yards on 31 carries. If I'd have told you before the game that Notre Dame's barely going to complete half their passes and they're going to rush for 4 yards on 31 carries, and the final score is going to be a 28-point differential, you're going to be like, man, it's going to be a rough day for Notre Dame. I can't believe they lost to Wisconsin by 28. That's what you'd have thought.
Absolutely. Right.
But that's just how brilliant this defensive performance was. And again, it wasn't like they had a bunch of sacks. And I mean, it was just dominating the trenches on first and second down.
Right.
I mean, literally, Notre Dame dominated the line of scrimmage on defense today. I couldn't be more. And it was scheme, it was effort, it was technique, and it was talent. It was impressive.
Can I bring up my one negative about the defense?
Sure.
Because you know where I'm going with this.
Oh, yeah.
It was the series after Notre Dame went up 24-13. The defense took their foot off the gas. They sat back. They went to the 3 front. They were doing the keep everything in front of you thing. And I wrote it down right here. Let's see. It says defense playing not to get beat. That's what I wrote down. And it was super frustrating. I'm like,
and what happened at the end of that drive?
Right. But
He said
52-yard field goal that was missed.
Because he said, okay, screw that.
Yeah.
And they heated it back up again.
Yes.
He's got to stay on the attack.
And
if
I think
Wisconsin is going to beat you at a 50-yard gain, then they're going to beat you at a 50-yard gain. It is what it is.
Absolutely.
But
keep the heat up, man. Just turn the heat up. Keep it there the whole game. And unless it's 41-13.
Right. And again, the heat up doesn't mean you're blitzing every down. It just means you're still attacking with your friend. I know you're not. I'm explaining because you and I are on the same page. I'm explaining to people what we mean.
What do you mean?
Deep breaths, goose frabo. Okay, you're gonna be all right. But no, what Vince is saying here we're not saying you need to press or pressure or blitz. It just means let your defensive line dominate for 4 quarters is essentially what we want to see. So I mean, we said before the season that this could end up being one of the best defensive lines in the country. And remember after the first 2 games and everybody was not everybody like people here, because I think we have a pretty rational group of people here, but a lot of people nationally and some people in Notre Dame circles. I know I saw a lot of it on Twitter and a lot of it on the Facebook group and even some of it on our message board, although not a ton, because again, we have a pretty rational group of people that love talking football at Irish Breakdown. Yeah. But there's like, well, maybe Marcus Freeman's overrated and maybe he's not as good as we thought and he doesn't know how to use the personnel. And I'm like, they've had 4 bad plays. Okay.
True. Yeah.
4 bad plays that have accounted for basically like half their yards. Okay. Once they clean up those mistakes, this defense is going to be pretty freaking good. In the last 2 weeks, they've been pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're cleaning. I mean, again, look, good teams, Wisconsin's a quality team. Ches Malusi's a good football player. Every now and then they're going to get a shovel pass for 35 yards. They're going to, outplay and, you bite a little bit too much on the run and they're going to hit a play action pass over the top. It is what it is. But how do you respond to those things? And the biggest thing is to see the fundamental improvement from week 1 to week 4. That's what a good, well-coached team looks like. The offensive lines look like garbage for 4 straight games from a technical standpoint, right? The receivers don't play with very good technique. It's still having too many drops. For 4 games, we've seen like no improvement fundamentally. You look at the defense, the growth they've had in the first year in the system. In 4 games, they've gone from a group that made way too many mistakes within a 4-game stretch. It was one of the most fundamentally sound, aggressive performances we've seen in a long time.
Absolutely.
That's good coaching. And it's not just Marcus Freeman. He's the DC. He gets the first amount of credit.
Of course.
But you don't do that without a great D-line coach. You don't do that without great secondary coaches. And Kerry Cooks plays a role and Nick Lazinski plays a role. This is a really well-coached group.
Agreed.
And from what I'm told from some sources, Mike Elson and Marcus Freeman have really clicked. And Marcus Freeman is a guy that values, hey, this isn't just my show.
Yeah,
right.
And he said that. Yeah,
right. But it's one thing to say it.
Well,
I've heard a lot of coaches say it, but he has lived it, and I think that creates buy-in. And honestly, that's part of the only reason that Notre Dame is having success they have on offense is because Tommy Rees does have a good relationship with John McNulty and Lance Taylor and things like that. But back to the defense, this is such a well-coached unit. There's still some things got to get cleaned up. The corners still get a little bit grabby. I'd like to see that get cleaned up.
It's getting cleaned up a little bit.
They have made so much improvement in just a 4-game stretch against back-to-back. And here's the thing. They've played better in the biggest games. This is the biggest game they've played, and they were at their best.
Yeah.
This is a unit that's ascending, Vince. And I mean, today was a great example of that. This was I don't want to get too hyperbolic, but just off the top of my head, this felt like one of the best defensive performances we've seen from the defense in a long time.
It was so good. And
this matches up like with the Syracuse game from 2018.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like now that was against a much better offense, but it was also a team that didn't have a ton of talent and the offense helped them out. But
there was a lot going into this game from an outside perspective too, more so than going into the Syracuse game.
Right.
And, Notre Dame was the underdog and all, there was a lot of noise going into this game. And this defense is playing at a point right now where they will be in every game. This defense will keep them in every game. Now, it's going to be up to the offense to score some points, okay, because the defense isn't always going to score 14, and the special teams isn't always going to score 7. So, the offense needs to score. Don't get me wrong. But the defense will keep Notre Dame in every game from here on out. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes they're going to outscore the opponent like they did today. I mean, it really was impressive, Vince.
It is what it is.
It really was. Great performance.
You want to fire off some of these super chats?
Yeah, sure. Because
it sounded like we were transitioning.
I did want to say one thing. Finish up the defense.
Yes.
This is why you've been so high on Cam Hart for so long.
Yes.
Because he's so rangy. He's so long. But you also kind of saw today why he didn't play receiver, because he just doesn't catch the ball real clean. But those were two phenomenal plays. He also played well against the run. They basically said, we're not going to throw at him very much today. And the few times they did, it cost them.
Let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they moved Cam Hart to the field because it shuts down more of the field defensively? Does that make sense? So that they put their stronger corner
taking advantage of that range. Yeah, you can't avoid him.
So you're taking away 2/3 of the field with him. Not the whole thing. You know what I mean? But then Clarence Lewis has a smaller area to operate in,
and you can also protect Clarence Lewis a little bit easier in the boundary.
Right?
Kenneth.
Yeah, I feel like that's why they made that decision. So, and a good decision, because Cam Hart has responded. He has responded.
Yes.
So fantastic.
And he got injured last week and he bounces back. And I didn't see him in the first series.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he got hurt at the end of the game last week.
Yeah,
I didn't see him in the first series. I saw Tariq Bracy out there and I was like, oh, is he hurt? And then I was like, oh, okay, there he is. So, but no, he was really good today. Now, Clarence Lewis to me was the only guy that I thought, boy, he didn't play.
He had a lot more opportunities to play. You know what I mean? Like they picked on him and it was clear.
And they had success doing so for the most part. And that was a more accurate quarterback. Maybe they set up a score late in the first half with Notre Dame up 10-3. But I'll say this too is if the offense could have given the defense a little bit more help today. I mean, look, they've given up 13 points each of the last 2 weeks, Vince. The first time they've given up a score each of the last 2 weeks, the opponent started their first possession in Notre Dame territory.
Right.
And both times they held them to field goals.
Yeah, true.
So, 5 turnovers, dominating defensive performance.
That's great.
I mean,
it was just so much fun. I'm so glad I stayed till the end, because I really was thinking about taking off so we get home.
I told you to leave.
I know, and I was like,
well, I didn't tell you. I said, hey, you ready to leave now? And you're like, no.
I was like, not really.
No, I want to stay. I want to watch the game.
Okay, I'm a fan too.
No, it's all good.
Let's roll through some of these. I don't know if you put this one up yet, but I wanted to throw it up. Michael Burke, thank you, Michael. Did anyone else enjoy seeing the stands continually empty out behind the goalposts on the extra points in the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
So they had the stadium set up. I'm sure you guys noticed it was half Wisconsin, it was half Notre Dame. And I did see a comment in there someplace about, was this considered a Notre Dame home game? It actually was not. It was considered Wisconsin's home game. That's why it was on Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they kind of did things in the stadium, it was kind of half and half. So like they
let like a bowl game. It felt like a bowl game.
Very good point. Like they let Notre Dame do their, thing in third quarter, and then they played jump around, and they did kind of everything. They had the Notre Dame girl, in the stands doing the nonsense on the Jumbotron. It's like, really? You brought that to Chicago? Are you kidding me? But anyway, so it was definitely Wisconsin's home game, but they let everybody kind of do their thing, I guess is the best way to put it. Let's see here. There was a few more super chats I wanted to get to. Hopefully I didn't lose them. DBZ, thanks to BZ, says Jordan is going to be a beast the more playing time he gets. I thought he had a really good game. He did some good stuff. They were trying to set up a screen, and he was right there, didn't bite on the play action on the backside, and was right in Mertz's face, and so he had to ground the ball at the feet of the receiver. And on that one as well, Drew White was right there on the running back. So even if it gets complete, Drew White's right there to wipe it out. Drew White had a great game in coverage. Great game.
I thought Jordan's timing as a pass rusher wasn't always there, which you kind of expect from a guy playing his first game. But man, his motor just runs. He has one gear.
Yeah. Right.
He really does. And as he kind of becomes more of a factor, and you can move him around more, and you can move some other guys around more, goodness gracious, I like it.
Absolutely. Like it. He brings versatility to the defense. It just makes him that much deeper, which is fantastic. Brian Barry, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. That's all I have.
I got one more.
So you've got
one more.
Good.
Yep, got one more. So
Elroy Bubba, Love that. Elroy Bubba, thanks for the super chat. Says, I don't like the Shamrock series, but I'm okay with it if we play at Soldier Field every year. Thought the environment was awesome. And I will tell you, walking up to the stadium and everything, I mean, it was a great environment. It really was a good environment. For the most part, the fans were civil to each other. There was one nonsensical opposing fan that was in line next to me that I just wanted to be like, dude, really? Come on, man.
Did you want to like give him the DX move after the game?
Well, it wasn't even because he was a Wisconsin fan. It was because he was a rich douchey fan. Like it was that he was yelling, like he yelled at a Notre Dame guy. He's like, well, enjoy watching the game from the stands while I'll be in a suite. Like, really, dude? Like, okay, good comeback.
I don't really care where you watch that butt whooping from. You still got your butt whoop.
Yeah, no, it was great. I wish I would have seen him after the game. Yeah. How was the butt whooping from the suite, dude?
Yeah. Did it hurt less? Did it hurt less the more the nicer seats?
That's great. But anyway,
goodness gracious.
Yeah. So
I like the Shamrock series if done correctly. I just feel like some of the places they choose to play don't make sense. Like I like
when
the
they
one in
Purdue
Ireland
and Indianapolis. I thought that was dumb.
Boston College at Fenway. I'm digging that. I liked the one at Yankee Stadium against Syracuse. That made sense. I don't like it when they play at MetLife. I don't necessarily like playing Army in San Antonio. I mean, get why you're doing it because there's a big Army base in San Antonio. I get that, but like, no. It is what it is. Playing Arizona State and Dallas, like, I
remember that one.
Play Texas and Dallas or Oklahoma and Dallas or TCU and Dallas or something like that.
Wasn't there a reason they couldn't do that though? Because of like the Big 12 rights or something? I don't remember, but
probably. Look, I'm not upset about the Big 12 leaving per se, but they have some stupid rules. But yeah, there's probably something dumb going on. So anyway,
right. Anyway,
anything else you want to add about the defense, Vince? I mean,
loved it. They did exactly what I hoped that they would do, to be honest with you. Josh Phillips has a quick super chat down here. He says, the D was outstanding. How special to have Rocket on Fox's show and see Tyree get a kickoff return. O-line still concerns me, though. Did they really do that?
What?
They had Rocket on?
Rocket was on the Fox, the big noon kickoff thing. Which, by the way, the football analysis of that is so far superior to what you get with ESPN, for at least when I used to watch ESPN. Now, Rocket's segment was interesting because Rocket kind of goes off on tangents that aren't really related to what he's talking about. But it was just great to see him. I bet you could still run a 4.5. I mean,
dude's got so much energy.
He does. He is so fired up about life. Yeah. I absolutely love it. But came out there, had the bandana on, he had the green on it, green shoes on, and he was so fired up. And
that's awesome.
And what's kind of cool was like Reggie Bush kind of looked like a fanboy on that one. Like, did you see? Like, you have to go back and watch it. If anyone said like Reggie Bush looked like I probably would have looked if the Rocket would have come up in the middle of a show. Like, like Matt Leinart even said, "Dude, I grew up watching you before I became a USC guy."
Yeah, of course,
right? I mean, because if you think about it, those kids were growing up at a time when, right. So I mean, it was pretty cool.
Rocket was Reggie before Reggie was Reggie. I mean, let's be honest.
If Rocket would have played in a more modern offense, Rocket still the most explosive player I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely, and
with all due respect to Reggie Bush and all.
Yeah, the fact that Tyree wears 25
and then went to the house and then took it to the house with speed. Like I thought that one guy at the middle of the field was going to catch him. He had a step on him, and then all of a sudden Tyree's like, nope, not the guy from behind, but the guy that was. You may not have seen it. There was a guy coming from his right. You'll see it on the TV copy. It looked like he was like he had a track to get Tyree, and then he just kind of ran right by him.
It was awesome.
But it was
it was awesome.
Yes. And we'll talk more about Chris Tyree when we get to the offensive performance.
Okay, we got one more super chat down here. Mike Huff says, done with the Kane Madden experiment. So that leads us probably right into the offensive talk.
Yeah, I want to start off with a positive, though, because, again, we had – you can take that down, Vince. Appreciate Mike for the super chat, by the way. I didn't mean that as a negative, like towards you, Mike. I wanted to talk about something else. First of all, I want to say – this is why I wrote an article this summer saying overlook Drew Pyne at your own peril was the title of my article. This kid is a freaking gamer, man. Yeah. Like he looks so poised in this game, Vince. Like, I don't know if you said you were watching TV copy, so you probably saw it. He came into the game and he was like, he didn't even put his chin, he didn't even put his like
chewing on the side.
He wasn't even like, he was just like, it wasn't like a nervous tick. And he just comes out there, his first 2 passes, complete. Then he gets hit from behind, fumbles the ball, leads to Wisconsin taking the lead. And I'm like, how's he going to respond? He went 4 for 4 for 49 yards and a touchdown the next time he got on the field.
I mean, it was
there was a kick return for a touchdown within that. But his poise in this game is exactly what you and I have been talking about. And his release is so flippin' quick. That seam throw to Michael Mayer was a thing of beauty.
Perfect throw.
And we finally saw some seams getting thrown today. Jack Coan had a nice seam earlier to Avery Davis that set up should have been a score if they didn't miss their 3rd field goal attempt of the season. But it was just such a poised throw. And then did you see the read on the touchdown pass, Vince? Did you see what happened? So they went empty. They had 3 receivers to the left, and Michael Mayer was the number 3 guy. And they had 2 guys backside. Kevin Austin was actually inside. It was a great play design. And they ran an option route to Michael Mayer. And he looks over, and he's looking at Mayer. That's where he wanted to go. The linebacker over Mayer and the linebacker inside of Mayer both ran with Mayer. As soon as Drew saw that, he came right back to Kevin Austin, come over the middle, and he hit him right in the middle of the field. He took it and went for a touchdown.
Well, it's funny because it's funny that you mentioned that because the way that Austin ran that route, he ran it like he wasn't the first option.
He wasn't.
You know what I mean?
Well, and he ran it smart because you can't just come screaming across the field on that.
Absolutely.
No, he knew he wasn't the primary read.
He knows it's going to take a second to get to him is what I'm saying.
He wasn't. Then you're absolutely right. He was not. Yeah. I mean, Drew, he didn't look like, you can tell when a guy's looking left to look a guy off and then coming back. He was looking left because Michael Mayer was his primary read.
And why wouldn't?
And when he saw that inside, because it's one thing for Mayer's guy to go out, but when the inside backer goes out, he knows there's nobody else back there. And he just came back, was poised. And this came after he got blindsided and fumbled the ball and turned it over.
Right.
And allowed Wisconsin to go down and get the lead. I mean, just the absolute poise from that kid, quick release. And you saw today, too, he's a good athlete. He just isn't a runner.
Right.
There's a difference. His feet got a little fast in the pocket a couple times, which you're going to expect. But, man, the kid showed incredible poise.
Yeah.
Good decision making. I mean, and he went 6 of 8, and he hit Joe Wilkins with a throw on a 3rd and 6. Hit freaking Joe Wilkins, went right through his hands, hit him in the face. You got to make that catch, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, that to me was just for that. He's been dismissed by a lot of Notre Dame fans. He's been, it's the Tyler Buckner show, and it's Jack Coan, that's Tyler Buckner, and nobody cares about Drew Pyne. And Drew Pyne said, as I wrote in the article this summer, overlook Drew Pyne at your own peril.
I love it.
Because that kid can flat out play. Now, do I still think Tyler Buckner's the future? Yeah, sure. But you know what? Drew Pyne's not going to make it easy on anybody to beat him out.
Agreed.
And we saw why today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just to come off the bench and have that kind of poise, just like, hey, I got this. And then for a moment, it looked like Coan was going to come back in. He was warming up to try to throw, and then he couldn't put any pressure on the foot. Yeah. But he was really good today.
I
really
loved it. I look, obviously we've been to a few practices, and Drew Pyne is a guy that is very easy to rally behind if you're one of his teammates. He's the hype guy. He's the hype guy in the quarterback room. Okay. He's the guy that when they're moving from station to station, or there's, the linemen coming over with the quarterbacks or whatever, he's first to greet those guys with like high fives, and like, he's the hype man. And so he's easy to get behind. He's a guy that is a great teammate. He wants what's best for everybody, which is fantastic. And so when he went in, everybody had 100% confidence in what he could do. And it was obvious. It was so obvious they were ready to play for Drew Pyne, which is great. And that's nothing against Jack Coan. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is he's not your typical.
Jack Coan's a leader too. That's
100%. It's just a different kind of leadership.
You have to have a backup quarterback that when he goes in the game, the other players say, yeah, we're fine. We're okay.
And it was clear that was the case. Yeah. And so if Drew is the quarterback, okay. If Coan is the quarterback, okay.
And Vince, I said that this summer. I said, I don't care who starts quarterback for Notre Dame. Whoever wins the job's going to be fine because they've got 3 good quarterbacks. Now, now let's deal with this. Jack Coan is still the starter and should still be the starter.
And Brian Kelly confirmed
it's a whole lot different coming off the bench in a game than it is to be the guy that everybody prepares for.
Sure.
And Patrick, we will get to this here in a few.
Absolutely.
But I just wanted to pull that up just in case it goes
Thanks
away.
for the super chat, Patrick.
Yes. And Anthony L, Drew effing Pyne, thoughts on Reese's play calling. Thanks for all you do.
We're definitely going to get to that.
Very good transition there. But we'll talk about that next. But look, let's talk about Jack's performance. I thought Jack today was very up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he had some brilliant throws. The seam route he got sacked on first down at 2nd and 17. You're like, here we go again.
Right.
And Wisconsin's already got a 3-0 lead, and he throws a great seam throw, just perfect timing, gets the ball out, hits Avery Davis, converts turns a 2nd and 17 into a first down.
Yep.
Leads him down the field. Had some balls dropped. Great throw to Kevin Austin for the touchdown. And then there's some other throws where, dude, we've talked about this. You've got to put that sucker out for Braden Lindsey. You've got to throw it out, let him run underneath it. There were 2 chances for him. Yes, 2 chances. And Braden wasn't super open on the second one. They did a good job running with him on the second one.
The number
but
one,
the first
for Wisconsin
one,
did a pretty good
really
job of covering.
He
will give him
he
credit.
Was better than I thought he was going to be.
Me too. I thought Notre Dame could run by the secondary at will, and they didn't really have that opportunity as much as I thought that they would.
And they didn't try it. There were some time. Kevin Austin ran by a guy. Braden had one early that Jack overthrew him, actually, where Braden ran by the guy. But they were playing to take that away a little bit more today than they did with Braden than they did last week.
Yeah.
But there's also times where Jack's climbing the pocket and he's not. He'd step in it. So climbing the pocket essentially means when the outside rush comes, you climb the pocket means you step into the pocket. Okay. Yeah. He was stepping into the pocket, but as he was stepping into the pocket, you could tell he's been hit about 30 times doing this because he was looking for the rush.
Yeah.
The disappointing thing about that is I've never seen that from Jack Coan on film at Wisconsin. That's how bad the offensive line play has been. He's now looking for the rush. Now that's on him, right?
Sure.
I mean, he's got to look, you're a 5th-year senior. You can't be that way.
Right.
But at the same time, as a former quarterback, I can't blame him, because you don't want to get hit and lose the ball. But there was a time where he had Kevin Austin kind of coming open over the middle. He could have climbed the pocket and threw it and quickly got it out, but he's clearly looking for the rush and his feet aren't set. He's not ready to throw that ball. He's got to be better than that. He just is. I mean, there were some throws he missed today. He had Avery Davis on an out cut and he just threw it over his head. I mean, that's not a typical Jack Coan miss.
Right.
You can tell that the pressure's starting to get him. And with all due respect to Drew Pyne, if he'd have got his brains beat in the first 4 games like Jack Coan did, he may not have looked like he did today. So keep that in mind. Okay. You can only get hit in the face so many times before you start looking.
It's true. I mean, but that's true. I mean, that's just human nature. I mean, yeah, I absolutely correct.
But he left some plays out there today, in my opinion. Jack did, and Drew came in and Drew didn't in this particular game. But that doesn't mean that all of a sudden Jack Coan should be benched and Drew Pyne should be the starter. Now, if Jack's not healthy, here's what I will say. Kudos to Brian Kelly for saying what he said. That's what he should have said. Jack Coan should still be the starter, right? Mm-hmm. Jack Coan's done some darn good things for this football team so far early on. Florida State, comeback win over Toledo, big money plays in the fourth quarter or second half last week, all that, okay? Having said that, if Jack Coan's not 100% next week, don't play him.
Right.
Don't play him.
I agree.
Especially if Tyler Buckner's healthy, because I would start Drew Pyne and have Tyler Buckner as part of that package. If Jack Coan's, because look, Jack Coan, not 100% with a lower body injury against Cincinnati's pass rush, right, with the way this offensive line's blocking, no thank you.
Right.
Hard pass. So Jack Coan needs to be the starter unless he's not 100%. If he's laboring on that leg by Wednesday's practice, Drew, we're ramping your reps up. Mm-hmm. To me, you've got to do that.
Well, and he had a bunch of reps. I mean, Brian Kelly mentioned it because Tyler Buckner was out. I know what you looked at the Clemson situation.
No, I started having
okay.
noise started playing. Like ESPN is this weird thing where all of a sudden an ad you could have I had this ESPN page up with the scores up for half an hour.
The whole time.
And all of a sudden an ad starts playing randomly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So no, sorry about that.
Gosh, what was I even talking about? See, I already lost my train of thought.
Jack Coan and injury and
So Buckner didn't really practice this week, and so Pyne got a lot. So just
Buckner was not going to play this game. I was told this on Tuesday that Buckner was not going to play.
Right, and I tried to hint that to people, but it's like, guys, he went out with a hamstring. Let's be smart about this. I mean,
I need to say something here because I feel bad sometimes because we had to kind of talk about Buckner a little bit during this week, although we purposely didn't talk about him. But sometimes I get told things by somebody who says this can't get out because if it does, people are going to know where it came from.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
And it's the same reason we were told, hey, don't say anything about Kurt Hinish because you see on Tuesday that he's out, and then Wisconsin knows that Kurt Hinish is out.
Sure.
I always get uncomfortable with those situations because it's like. People say, well, you owe it to us to tell you to a degree, yes. But you also have to understand if I put some of these things out where people have said, hey, if somebody tells me don't say anything publicly, that's different than me learning news and then just choosing not to report it. It wasn't my decision. We were asked, don't report this.
Exactly.
And if I do that, then I don't have that source anymore.
Yeah.
So I just want to be clear why sometimes the difficult line we have to. I was told Tuesday that Buckner and Hinish weren't going to play.
Yeah.
Hopefully Hinish can come back next week, but you feel a little bit better about him being out because, boy, goodness gracious, Vince, you get him back next week.
Oh yeah. I mean,
defensive line is. Whew.
Like I said, everybody that played had their name said at least once. I mean, it was just, hey, you get a rush, you get a rush. I mean, it was great. It was fantastic. It was great.
Yeah.
So, since we're kind of on a little transition here, I'm going to throw up some of these super chats so I don't lose them. I don't want to lose them.
Well, and some of them I want to pull one up by Mark that's relevant to what we were talking about. Mark Stewart says, my issue with Jack Coan is his lack of escapability. I don't know if this was stated earlier, but why does he get small in the pocket instead of standing tall and trying to deliver the ball? I just kind of think, look, Mark, I don't disagree with you. But this has been a problem since the spring with the offensive line. And the big thing is like you get hit so many times, you kind of start going into protect mode.
Absolutely.
He's been hit from behind twice this year where he's lost the ball. You're going to get a little antsy and say, I got to protect the ball. He's got to fight through that. That's not saying it's okay, but it's trying to explain why.
Right.
But he's got to improve his footwork in the pocket. He gets a little heavy. To Mark's point, I do think at times Jack gets a little heavy-footed when he's in the pocket, which makes it a little bit harder for him to do it. And he also has to do a better job of when he climbs, having the ball ready to throw.
Sure.
That's another thing he's going to have to do a better job of. Because, look, Jack Coan should be the starter next week. But he's got to start kind of playing cleaner. Because at the same time, when you do have Drew Pyne and you do have Drew Buckner, you have to be careful that – I know what you keep looking at. You got that NC State Clemson game on. It's all good. I get it. I keep doing it too. I'm just a little bit sneakier about it than you are, Vince.
Yeah. I don't have the multiple, so I've got stuff going all over.
But to the point, though, is when you do have the talent Notre Dame as a quarterback, if you're in your Tommy Rees and your Brian Kelly, at some point in time, you have to say, hey, Jack, we need you. We understand why this is happening, but you can't. You got to be better than that.
Absolutely.
But look, if you put Drew Pyne in the game after 4 games, if the line keeps doing this, he's going to get a little gun shy too.
Absolutely.
It's just the nature of it. So definitely
super chat,
definitely
Mark.
understand where you're coming from, Mark. And that is an issue. He's going to have to. But that's also where I think Tommy Rees needs to. And we had a question about what I think of Tommy Rees's game plan. I thought it was good in some ways. I thought they did it. There was after the first series, it was like same crap on the first series. By the second or third series, you start seeing a little bit more crossers, a little bit more Mayer over the middle, a few more things where you kind of left the middle of the field, some things over the middle of the field. We saw them attacking the seams a little bit more today than we saw last week. He missed it. He freaking
shut up. You're ahead of me.
The NC State kicker just missed a chance to beat
It's lined
Clemson.
up perfectly.
Left. He hooks it left. It's going to overtime.
Gosh, are you kidding me?
But I thought there were some things in that regards with some of the quicks that we've talked about. There was more levels concepts today. I thought the play call where you went empty, because what did we say was spread them out, spread Wisconsin out. When did Notre Dame have success today? When they spread Wisconsin out. When did Notre Dame struggle to get offense going today? When they went 12 and 13 personnel.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And
the Drew Pyne touchdown pass was out of empty.
Yes. Yeah, what I didn't like about some of the game plan or the play calling or however you want to phrase it, when they got down in the red zone, I didn't like them just trying to run it up the gut. I did not like that at all. That
can't run.
That was disappointing to me. Like, throw the ball. And I also didn't like, I can't remember what drive it was. It might have been coming out of halftime. They went deep right away and missed. And then they tried to run the ball and lost a yard. And so you're putting too much on third down at that point. And I didn't like that. You know what I mean? If you throw the ball the first 2 times, look, I'm okay with you taking a shot, but don't run the ball on 2nd and 10 when you haven't had.
So they took a play action shot early. Yes, took a play action shot early and you overthrew him, and then they went run up the middle and I thought Kyron made a bad cut on that. I thought he could have picked up 2-3 more yards. We'll get to him here in a second, but
so that's really all.
I had some other issues with his play calling too.
But yeah,
give me some screens. Look, Braden Lindsey has to get the ball in some other way than post and goes.
Correct.
I'm sorry. You've got to send him on some crossers. You've got to give him some screen. Give him a jet sweep. I mean, run a freaking reverse just to make teams know that you're willing to do it.
Right.
With Tyree look, Chris Tyree had 3 touches today on offense. 3. That's it. Yeah. I'm sorry. When your offense is struggling to consistently move the football, you can't have Chris Tyree touching the ball 3 times.
Right.
Because what did he do on his 4th touch? He went 96 yards for a touchdown.
Right. And I did like the tunnel screen to Austin. He just
freaking fell. Yeah. He probably outruns 41 up the middle on that play.
Hey, Brian, I'm going to step away for just a second. I will be right back.
Okay. So to me, that we've got to see more things from Tommy Rees in that regards. And part of the reason is number one, it's about getting your playmakers the ball in space more effectively. Part number 2 about it is it's ways to protect the offensive line. I'm actually trying to go down and find Notre Dame's touchdown pass, the first touchdown pass, because I'm trying to remember if that one was on a spread out formation too. But, look, we talked about this. The way to beat Clemson in this game was to spread them out. And when Notre Dame spread them out, they were able to create enough space to find some opportunities. You look at the seam throw to Avery Davis early in the game. Again, they spread them out. They went 11 personnel. And they spread them out. That is when Notre Dame had success today. And in my opinion, until the offensive line can start playing better, they're gonna have to do more of that. Honestly, I'd rather see more 10 personnel than 12 personnel right now. Part of the reason for that is because honestly, the wide receivers aren't blocking well, or the tight ends aren't blocking well enough for you to really have an advantage going 12 personnel. Like last year, it made sense because when you went 12 personnel last year, you were putting Tommy Tremble in the game, and he was a dominant blocker. Right now, the way things are going with Notre Dame, they're not getting that kind of play from the tight ends in the blocking game to where it really benefits you. You're not a better running team when you go 12 and 13 personnel, at least not to the degree in which you benefit from. I'm actually looking at 12 personnel was when they were in 12 personnel on Austin's first touchdown pass. And they took a field shot, right? Outside shot. So to me, those are some things that I need to see Notre Dame do more of, is more spreading the field, more opportunity. And the thing I liked about that is they went 12 personnel, but they released both tight ends into routes, occupied the safeties and left the one-on-one, getting more guys out and involved. So those are things that we're going to have to see more from Notre Dame, in my opinion, is spreading the field out to protect the line, because the line is simply not good enough and your tight ends aren't blocking well enough for it to be worth it to play as many snaps in 12 and 13 personnel. I mean, they went 12 and 13 personnel. We're still getting 1 yard, 2 yards. They just weren't having success there. So there's got to be more creativity in that regards to protect just what's been a really bad offensive line. Got another super chat from Mark Staten. Said, enjoy the show, guys. Keep up the good work. Go Irish. Thank you for that, Mark. Got a super chat from Beast Daniel. Regardless who's starting, Cincinnati with a new DC has 3 diverse quarterbacks to consider. That's a good way of looking at it. That's a really, really good way of looking at it. No question about it. Although I don't think I necessarily would say that 3 different. I think there's enough. I think there's enough similarities between Coan and Pyne that I don't know if they create a whole lot of a different preparation for you as a defense. So let's talk about the running backs real quick as we're waiting on Vince to come back. I think number 1 for me, when I look at the running backs, I thought that Kyren Williams, he's trying to do too much, in my opinion. Because the line's bad, he's kind of suffering what Jack Coan's suffering through, where he's kind of feel like I gotta be prepared for the lineup to play well. It's causing him to kind of dance a little too much, trying to make plays when he needs to just hit it up in there. But at the same time, I kind of understand it, because when he did have positive yards today, it was mainly because he was just making something out of nothing. And the reality is that sometimes you kind of have to do that if your offensive line is not playing well enough. But the big thing for me with Kyren is one big positive, one huge negative from today. The huge negative was the fumble. You're an All-American. You're a junior now. You cannot be putting the ball on the ground like that. You just can't. And then the positive, where he had 2 great blitz pickups today on big pass plays. He is a guy to me that is just finding ways to make an impact in games where, look, he had 33 yards on 18 carries. Kyren Williams averaged 1.8 yards per carry today. And that's not because of Kyren Williams. It's because of the offensive line. Yet he still finds ways to be successful. He still finds ways to help the team. He still finds ways to make an impact on the game. And that just shows you that's leadership. That's football character right there. So I really liked seeing that. I thought Chris Tyree, he didn't carry the ball much. He was their most decisive runner today. He only carried the ball twice, caught 1 pass for short yards, which he's got to get more touches than that. They've got to do more things with those 2 backs together in the game at the same time. They've got to figure out more ways to get those guys more involved in the pass game, in my opinion, and getting them in space. The other part to me, receivers. Some good. I tell you what, we wrote before the game, we talked about before the game, where we're going to learn a lot about Kevin Austin in this game. And not that he's talented. I mean, we know he's talented. We've seen what he can do. But he was coming off of a really awful performance where Purdue got in his head. And he bounced back. And, how he was going to bounce back, to me, was going to show what kind of maturity he has as a football player, as a young man. And he came back and played well. Now, he had an early kind of a drop. The ball was a little bit behind him. But he made some great plays in this game. The great catch on the touchdown. So this before his second touchdown, and then before the seam route to Mayer, he makes that great catch of a low throw by Pyne on 3rd down that moved the chains. If he doesn't make that play, it's 4th down. Then he's got to maybe kick a long field goal, if not punt. So I thought he came out, played really, really well, had 6 catches for 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. I love seeing how he bounced back after last week's game. Avery Davis continues to just be a steady, solid player, 4 catches for 55 yards, had a nice seam route. Knows how to get open, and should have had a couple more catches if the quarterbacks just didn't miss him on some throws. So I thought he was solid. Braden Lindsey and Joe Wilkins didn't do a whole lot. Braden had 1 nice, long catch on the sideline on an out cut. I don't blame him for the incompletions on the deep balls, but my coaching point to him would be, the quarterback's got to make a better throw, but I need you to fight for that ball a little bit more. We're talking about receivers, Vince. I need you to fight for that ball a little bit more. We're talking about Braden Lindsey. We talked about the running backs. We talked about Kevin Austin, not just the way he played, but the fact that he bounced back from last week's performance says a lot about him. Avery Davis is just steady Eddie, just does his job real well. Lindsey, absolutely. I'm not blaming Lindsey. Like, as a receivers coach, I'm not saying, hey, Braden, you're the reason that ball was incomplete. I'm going to say, hey, look, man, I'm going to get all over the quarterback. You got to get that ball out there. But I need you, when the ball is thrown there, to make a better effort on
You
the
got to
ball,
compete
especially
for
the
it.
second time.
Yeah.
If he goes up and maybe reaches a little bit more, maybe then he can get that pass interference penalty.
Well, and the other thing is we've seen him in practice battle for balls,
Right.
and be successful, but we haven't seen it in a game yet. And that, I don't want to say it's disturbing, but it's something he needs to work on. I mean, absolutely. He needs to be able to battle for some of those jump balls, because remember, Ian Book used to throw balls up, those 50-50 balls on guys that he would trust. If you want those balls, you've got to show
and
that
those
you
were the
can trust
6'4" guys, right? I mean,
totally get that. No, totally get
Right.
that. I'm just saying you got to battle for those 50-50 balls. Yeah.
Right. Jack's got to get the ball out there. Joe Wilkins flat out has to make that play on third down. I'm sorry. I know it was good
Absolutely.
coverage. The guy got his hand, but the guy didn't impact the ball. The ball
Right.
went right through your hands. You got to make
Right.
that play.
Because it was here and the guy's hand was back here. You
Right.
still got to catch it. I mean,
Got to make
I
that catch.
Put my hands right
Got to
in front
make
of
that
the camera.
catch.
I apologize.
So some up and down from the receivers, but the two guys that were good were really good. I thought Kevin Austin and Avery Davis were really good.
Agreed.
Michael Mayer battled in the pass game. Got hit a lot. They used him a lot on short throws to open up some stuff behind it that the quarterback simply just didn't have the time to go to.
Yeah.
I thought that part of the scheme was really good. Used him effectively on third down. They put him backside a couple times more than normal, which I liked, and actually threw it to him at a third down throw to him on a play
Which I
where he
really
was
liked.
back. Yes.
Because that was a matchup that was very beneficial to Notre Dame. They had him on a safety, and Michael Mayer against any safety not named Kyle Hamilton. I will take that matchup. And since they play on the same team, that's never going to happen, at least not in college. So I love that. Isolate him. Put him out there and isolate him and see what happens. If you get the matchup you want, you go to it. And they did, and he made a great play. It was a great throw. The defender wasn't going to touch that throw, and Michael Mayer made a great catch. So I love that all the way around, top to bottom.
Blocking at tight end's got to get better. It's not just the line that's not blocking.
There was one where George Takis gave up. I don't know if he even touched him. I think it ended up being a sack, which was really bad. But I noticed a lot of tight end blocking just not up to par. Now, I wasn't, full disclosure, Brian and I kind of have a system. I was watching a lot of the receivers and the coverages, and he was watching the line. So I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the line. But when I would kind of peek in, I noticed that it wasn't great.
You'll have more thoughts on that tomorrow when we do our upon further review.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to get better. But, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
It's me. Don't talk about me like that.
I'm writing the post-game game observations, and I'm trying to not just crush them, right? So I'm talking about how, what, they played hard. They did. They played hard today. The offensive line played hard.
Well, that's good.
But I'm like, how bad is it that I have to force myself to first mention at least they played hard about the Notre Dame offensive line? I mean, if Notre Dame's offensive line would have played the way that Wisconsin's offensive line played today, Notre Dame wins that game 41-13 because of the offense.
Yeah. I
mean, it just needed to be average, and they are not close to average. I mean, it's not. It's yes, guys getting beat. But part of the reason Tosh Baker's getting beat is because they have not fixed his technique yet. And they haven't finished. The fact that a fifth-year senior like Josh Love continues to get driven into the quarterback because his technique is regressed, it's worse than it was 2 years ago in 2019, if we're being honest about this, Vince. It's if Josh Lugg was playing like he did 2 years ago when he replaced Robert Hainsey for 5 games late that season where Notre Dame went 5-0 and scored a ton of points, this offense would be really, really pretty good right now.
And that's, I think, the frustrating part for me is we've seen him be good.
Right.
We've seen him be good.
Yes.
And he's regressed.
He's
so much
regressing,
from that
and it's from a fundamental stand. It's not say, well, maybe his back is hurt, but he is regressed from a fundamental standpoint so much that and Kane Madden doesn't play with the same technique he had at Marshall. Look, Kane Madden would be a better player today if all we got was the same dude we had at Marshall.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because he at least what it was the one thing I said about him at Marshall. Dude is really, really fundamentally sound.
And he's strong. He's fundamentally
strong.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
He is not fundamentally sound at all. Same thing today, stopping their feet. Now, the few times that the line worked through contact, they got good movement.
Yeah.
There was one play where I think it was Christophic and Patterson, that just kind of worked the backside zone and just pushed the guy off the line.
Yeah.
There was a play where Patterson and Madden had a really nice push for a first down. And so we saw it like 4 or 5 times, but it was they came off low. They drove their feet through contact. Imagine that.
It's not that complicated.
But, you see Tosh continuing to overset, and I've never seen a tackle get beat inside as much as he gets beat inside.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's all technique. And we saw zero progress from last week. You had to put a true freshman in the game to get anybody to play with good technique. That says everything you need to know about this offensive line.
Yeah.
And it is such a poorly coached line. It's you can't spin it anymore. You can't spin it anymore. You can't say, well, it's a bunch of guys. I put some up on our message board last night. And you want to talk about getting fired up, okay? Everybody's like, well, it's an experienced group and blah, 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 barf, okay? So I put something up last night about I was watching the Wake Forest game, okay? And I'm watching Wake Forest just go all over the field on Virginia, who isn't any better or worse than the teams Notre Dame's played in the first 4 games defensively. I mean, they're not good, but neither of the teams that Notre Dame has played so far. Right. And I'm watching Wake Forest that lost a lot of new starters. They had one of their top running backs is now playing at Michigan State and killing at Michigan State. And Wake Forest has gone for 164, 161, 225, and 203 yards rushing. They ran for 225 yards on Florida State, right? Ran for 203 against Virginia last night. And I did some research. Notre Dame's offensive linemen coming into the season returned 63 career starts, most of them by 2 players. Wake Forest offensive line returns 62 career starts, most of them by 2 players. Wake Forest's offensive line has 3 redshirt juniors, a redshirt sophomore, and a redshirt freshman starting. Notre Dame has a 6-year senior, a 5th-year senior, a redshirt junior who is a 3-year starter, a redshirt sophomore, and a redshirt freshman in their starting lineup. There are 5 offensive linemen. Their 24/7 composite rankings were 964, 1,015, 1,593, 2,260, and 2,397. Notre Dame starting offensive linemen were ranked 95th, 100th, 120th, 369, which was Jared Patterson, and then Kane Madden wasn't ranked. And yet, Wake Forest can go out there and do what they've done through 4 games, right? Averaging 38.8 points per game against Old Dominion, Norfolk State, Florida State, and Virginia, which isn't a whole lot different than what Notre Dame has faced so far, and rush for almost 190 yards per game and give up 5 sacks on the season in 4 games, and Notre Dame's creeping up on 20. Now, not all those are on the line. There was 2 covered sacks today. Like, they gave up a lot of sacks today, but 2 of them were covered sacks. I mean, you and I talked about that. I said, hey, was anybody open? Because I'm watching TV, and he's like, no, those are covered sacks.
Yeah.
And it didn't look to me like anybody got open either. So they're not all on them, but a lot of them are.
Sure.
And say, so why? So you're telling me Nick Tabaka's that much better of an offensive line coach than Jeff Coan? Okay, fine. Then hire Nick Tabaka.
Yeah, then you need.
I like Nick. Nick's a good dude. I met him when I was at Defiance. He coached at Defiance College. Actually, met him at some camps and different things like that. Good dude, right? I like Nick. But how can he get these group of two-star players, one dude ranked in the thousands, like out, in the not in the thousands.
Yeah,
and you can put a line together that can go do what they're doing, and yet Notre Dame's getting outscored by their own defense and special teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can get mad at Tosh Baker all we want for giving up a sack and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, at the end of the day, it is on him. He's got to make a better play.
Sure.
But if you go back and watch that play, Tosh thought he was supposed to do this, and it's like, why does that keep happening? That same thing happened last week and the week before. You're telling me you haven't fixed that yet? You're telling me he's not a real bright kid. He can't figure that out? Well, I know that's not true because everybody else is still making the same mistakes they've made. That's the thing. At least they got him to play hard. But from an assignment standpoint, they're making the same mistakes in game 4 that they made in game 1.
Right.
Yet the defense makes these huge mistakes in game 1. And by game 4, they're one of the 5 best defenses in college football. Right?
Yeah. Well, we've seen strides from the defense every week. Every week they've gotten better. Yeah. Yeah. No. It's like one of these things is not like the other.
Right.
When you watch Sesame Street,
right.
I mean, it's It's right there in front of everybody. And it's so painfully obvious to everybody that that's the most disturbing part. Look, if there's a problem, then, there's nothing you can do about it. Okay. But there's something you can do about it. And it's not like you don't have players, right? You and I have both coached teams where you're like, I just don't have dudes. Right. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to do the best that we can. We're going to scheme around it. We're going to do everything that we can with the guys that we've got,
right?
But that's not the case either. So that's what makes it just insanely frustrating to watch this team operate. We say the same thing every week, and I don't see it changing anytime soon, which is the sad part.
Yep. Because we haven't seen a thing change except for the toughness. And that has more to do with the head coach stepping in there and saying, hey, better get your stuff together. Yeah. Hey, well, at least they're playing hard. That's great. Step one. But step two is now fixing the problems, and they're not doing that. That's the concerning thing. They're not fixing those problems. I gotta kick somebody out of here, Vince. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're not capable of engaging like a grown-up, then peace out.
That's fair.
I thought you already unfollowed us. This clown nasty. I thought he already unfollowed us because he thought we were picking Wisconsin. So he's gone. Peace out. Whatever.
I didn't see it, and that's fine.
Yeah, you're not missing it. There's a couple super chats we got down there, Vince. But at the end of the day,
I think you get
until they fix it.
Interesting.
I just saw them pop up.
No, it's funny. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, Neil Wachter says championship caliber teams with average MAC level offensive line play. Scheme can help, but we need to see development to win a championship. You're 100% right, Neil.
I think average.
That's
MAC
what's so freaking frustrating.
Line play is generous.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I think that's generous. I really do.
If they had Toledo's offensive line coach, the way that again, they play hard. They're at least fundamentally sound. They're just not real talented.
Right.
Notre Dame has 6'7", 300+ pound guys. And Sam Tyrell asked the question, which is a fair question. Brian, would you change the lineup of the guards? Won't matter.
Yeah,
it won't matter.
It's not going to matter.
Would I put Rocco Spindler in the game? Heck yeah, I would. Would I play Andrew Kostovic more than he's playing? Yeah, I would. But at the end of the day, that's going to make a minimal difference, in my opinion, because the problem is still a coaching problem. You're almost beneficial by putting Rocco in the game because he has less time being coached this way.
Yeah. He has less time to be screwed up.
And that sounds snarky. It is snarky, terrible, but it's also true.
But that's why look who's had some success, right? Alt has looked pretty decent when he's been in. Fisher looked decent when he was in before he got injured. All these freshmen are looking decent because they haven't been, they haven't been under the influence for long enough,
Right. And that sounds snarky and all that, but I'm sorry, that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
The longer guy, because look, we said this was going to be a big year for Jeff Quinn. There's no more Harry Heasting guys left.
The whole show on it.
And right now this looks like a completely like you and I can tell the difference between a group of players that's making young mistakes and a group of players that are just not prepared. This group is not prepared.
Yeah.
It's not about guys trying to gel. They're not prepared. Right. They're not prepared to pick up twists and stunts that teams are throwing at them on a weekly basis. Teams are basically just rinsing and repeating the game plan against Notre Dame, and it doesn't matter. It just the same stuff works. They still can't pick up a simple edge blitz. At least today, Tommy Rees called a screen on a play where they brought a corner fire that nobody touched the corner. But, of course, it got blown up. Wisconsin did a good job of sniffing it out. It was good defense. But at the end of the day, look, y'all, should Rocco play more? Yeah. Is the Kane Madden experiment over? I hate saying that because I don't think this is Kane's fault.
Yeah.
Kane was never that good. They overhyped him. But Kane should be better than he is right now. If he played like he did again at Marshall, he'd be a solid player right now. That's it. Solid player. He'd have some trouble with athletic players, but he'd still be getting some movement and they'd be able to run behind him a little bit and things like that. But he's regressed technically. I can't, how can I say that's a 6th-year senior that's doing that? This is not, the players should not be responsible for their own footwork. That's a coaching thing. You know what I mean? It's frustrating because that's what's holding this team back. Notre Dame is 4-0 and have now beaten back-to-back Big Ten teams. And they've had one of the, in my opinion, 10 worst offensive lines in college football right now, from what I've seen.
It's just,
yeah. Florida State just lost to Louisville, by the way. They're 0-4.
Who did?
Florida State lost at home to Louisville, by the way.
Of course they did.
Yeah. Auburn almost lost to Georgia State. They just scored a touchdown with less than a minute to go to take a lead over Georgia State. Weird freaking year of college football, man.
We told you that there was going to be parity this year in college football. Yeah. And this is a great opportunity for somebody to go out there and just grab it.
Yeah, and that's what's so maddening, because if Notre Dame's offensive line was just mediocre, they would be a top 3 team right now. Top 3 team right now. I mean, the skill talent's there. The defense is getting there.
Now, I will say I'm interested to see what happens with Notre Dame in the polls, because everybody thought Wisconsin was so good. And then they got this score here. So I am interested. Not that the polls matter to me, but I'm very interested.
It's at least interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah. I'm interested to see what they do with them. I will say that. But,
4th and 5.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I'm still ahead of you.
Yep.
So Vince, anything else offensively before we kind of get to some other things here? Anything else offensively that you want to discuss or?
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, I thought Kevin Austin had a nice bounce back game. I really do. I think that was a big question mark of mine. I know he's got talent, but I wanted to see him bounce back from the game that he had against Purdue, and he did. I still have my doubts and my questions about Braden Lenz, but I'm not sure they're using him 100% correctly. So there's that. Avery Davis.
He needs to do the things they've had him do, but that can't be the only thing.
There you go. Thank you for making that sound better, because that's exactly right.
That's why I get paid the big bucks, baby.
Yeah, baby. They need to get Chris Tyree more touches. That absolutely needs to happen, and it's not happening yet.
3 freaking touches,
right?
On offense.
He changes the momentum of the game on special teams. Get him the ball. Okay. Yeah,
you sounded like John Panette there real quick. It's my favorite comedian. He has this thing. He's a real big guy.
Yeah.
And there's this thing where he gets in line and people do dumb things in lines of like buffing. He's like, get out of the line. Get out of the line. You sounded like him. It was sorry. It just made me laugh.
That's okay. You
got to get him the ball more.
You have to. And Tommy Rees is progressing with his play calling. I'm not totally upset with it. There was just a few, and we mentioned them. There's a few items that I really wish that they would do differently, especially when they're down in the red zone.
And especially when your line sucks.
Yeah, that was frustrating to me. I mean, you're compacted down there. They know you want to try to run the ball. You are not at the point where when everybody in the stadium knows you want to run the ball, you can run the ball. So
down goes Clemson.
Yes. Okay. Anyway.
Now, remember the people laughing at me when I said, hey, I'd rather be where Notre Dame is than Clemson is right now?
Yeah, 2 losses.
I've said this offseason, Clemson's going to take a step back this year. Everybody thought, Trevor's going to get replaced by DJ. Out of here with that nonsense.
Exactly.
But that's what's so frustrating about this, Vince, is that this season is there for the taking for Notre Dame.
Rushing the field, baby.
They just got to get the O-line going.
Absolutely.
And it's not a gut check thing. It's not going there and rip them and tell them to play harder. Playing harder is not fixing anything. I got no beef with the way they played today. I don't.
Right.
Now, I'm going to go back and watch the film, and maybe when I watch the film, I may have some more complaints about that. But I just watching it off live and a couple rewinds during the game. It wasn't a toughness problem for me.
Yeah.
It was you're just not playing. You're just not. There's no technique. There's no drive. You're still making the same basic protection mistakes.
Right. Absolutely. It's frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating. So,
yeah.
Anyway, but look, the bright side is they have an elite defense. They have an elite defense who can cover up, they can put lipstick on a pig at times.
Yeah.
And that's what they did today.
Can outscore their own offense.
I mean, apparently. It is what it is, man.
Well, no, they didn't outscore their own offense. They outscored Wisconsin.
They outscored Wisconsin. They outscored Wisconsin. But
it's impressive.
Anyway.
It's impressive.
Yeah, it's like I said, the defense is going to keep them in every game possible. And A&M screwed me, by the way, just in case anybody's curious.
Dude, you should have listened to me. I picked it. I would have told you Arkansas was going to win this game.
They were the 4th leg of a parlay for me.
They scored 10 points against Colorado, Vince. I
wasn't a believer in Arkansas until now.
It doesn't matter. 10 points against Colorado.
I had faith
They had
that
their backup quarterback in the game. Their offense that wasn't even good and had Kellen Mond at quarterback.
I had faith and it bit me.
Yep.
It's okay. It's okay.
But hey,
okay.
Texas A&M also lost their starting quarterback, veteran quarterback. They also lost 4 starting offensive linemen. So it could be worse. It could be worse.
Look, Notre Dame could have an L right now, period.
Right.
And they don't. They're 4-0.
4-0.
And in the fourth game was a dominating fashion on the scoreboard.
Yep.
So, people need to be – I really can't wait to see some of the haters come into our chat like who are all predicting that Wisconsin was going to win and all this other stuff. Just come on. Where are you? Come on. Be nice about it, but come on. I'm not going to be mean to you. I want to see what you got. But anyway, so yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, look, it was a fun drive home because the butt whooping that they put on them at the end, which was fantastic, and it was they didn't leave any doubt, which was great. But the offense just needs to get better. The offense needs to get better. Period. So
let's Vince, let's get to some user comments. Again, obviously we lost a ton of comments.
There's nothing we can do. I'm bumped to 713.
I'm almost going to ask the people next time. I think we should maybe say, look, don't put any comments in there till we're done talking unless you're going to do a super chat. That way we can get all your comments because we want you all to be a part of this post-game show too.
Sure.
And I feel bad that we missed so much, but like literally the earliest comment I have is 701.
Well, you're way ahead of me because I'm at 713.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to get to some of these. Justin Herwick said, Pyne's accuracy and mobility alone should have BK and Tommy Reese in the lab. I understand where you're coming from, but I've said this before this game. Look, there has not been, in my opinion, a bigger champion of Drew Pyne this offseason than me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as I've also said, I have to be consistent. I would always warn people against jumping on the backup quarterback bandwagon based on how he played when coming off the bench as starting quarterback, as the backup quarterback,
preparing for him.
And not just that, but the pressure is so much different on a starting quarterback than a backup quarterback.
Sure.
It's a different animal. And that doesn't mean that Drew Pyne shouldn't get a start. As I said, if Jack Coan isn't healthy or if Jack Coan continues to look, he's missed some throws the last 2 weeks. You can say whatever you want about the offensive line. The fact of the matter is you're a fifth-year senior quarterback. You've got to make those throws.
Sure.
You have to be able to make at least some of them. Now, he did in the second half was better last week, but like you can get away with waiting to the second half to make those throws against Purdue. You can't do that against Cincinnati or North Carolina or some of the better teams on the schedule because as we've talked about, stuff gets real now, right? And it started this week. And if not for your defense playing like just a phenomenal game, who knows how this game turns out, And so that's where we say like he's going to have to kind of get over that. That's also why I think if he's not healthy, I will say this, Justin, if Jack Coan at 90% is not better than Drew Pyne.
Agreed.
He's not. That's why I say if he's not 100%, look, Jack Coan's a good football player. Everybody knows I'm high on Jack Coan. He's not Trevor Lawrence. He's not Justin Fields. He's not one of those guys where him at 90% still better than anybody else you got.
Right.
That is not true. Here's the other thing, too. If Tyler Buckner's injury is one in which he's still in an emergency quarterback situation next week, I'm especially going to want to not start Jack Coan because then you run the risk of if he gets re-injured again, now you're basically down to one healthy quarterback because Brandon Clark's not healthy either. And Brian Kelly said he still can't really take a hit.
Well, and he basically said after somebody asked him if Buckner was available, and he said no. And he said after Pyne, he goes, we were going Wildcat. Yeah. So, I mean, that tells
Brandon
you
Clark's
there.
not healthy. He's not healthy.
No, not at all. I mean,
you can't take a hit right
You got to walk on number 8. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, what he means by that is you're putting Avery Davis a quarterback.
Yeah,
that's what he means by that.
That's Wildcat. Yeah, that's their Wildcat package. Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Which might be fun.
Yeah, but not for 3 quarters against Cincinnati.
No.
No. So that's what I'm saying is like don't put Jack in that situation next week if he's not 100% healthy.
Absolutely.
That would be my thing. And so and then look, at the same time, if that is the case, you do have to leave open the possibility of a Wally, him getting Wally pipped. That's just the reality. And that's the reality when you're at a place like Notre Dame. To me, Jack Coan's my starting quarterback.
Yes.
But Jack Coan's not my starting quarterback if he's only 90% healthy. And if you have to make that move and Drew Pyne, the offense works better under Drew Pyne, then you have to say, maybe we need to ride this through the Virginia Tech game, keep getting Jack healthy, and then we got to reevaluate the sucker when we get to the bye week.
Sure.
That's what happens when you have a quarterback room like Notre Dame has. Because again, this isn't new. This isn't new. Anyone that's been on our channel from the beginning, you know, Vince and I said this summer, I don't care who the quarterback is. I'm not on Team Jack. I'm not on Team Drew or Team Tyler. I'm on, hey, I don't care who the quarterback is.
Right.
Any of those three guys, to me, you can win with at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
You can. Jack, to me, is still the starter. I don't think he's done anything to lose the starting job. And you put Drew behind that offensive line for a whole week and a whole game, and then 3 games where he's getting his face knocked in, you're going to see some of the same issues that Jack's having. Now, the one thing I do think that Drew does have an advantage over Jack is he does have a quicker actual release. Now, Jack can get the ball out quickly from a decision-making standpoint, but from a pure arm speed standpoint, Tyler and Drew are both faster than Jack in that regards, because Jack's got that little cock thing, you know, that little, he cocks it back and he, you know, does like that kind of thing. He gets it out quickly, but it's not, if you're just like, if they were to start to throw and release it at the same time, he'd be the third fastest of the 3.
Gotcha.
You know, his speed comes from up here. So anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on the quarterback.
We got a super chat, Brian, I'm going to throw up. Alex Udell, thanks for the super chat, says, after watching games today, it's clear that if Notre Dame had a decent O-line, they would easily be a playoff team, no doubt. And they still may be, which is the freaking scary part with, I mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway. I mean, honestly, Alex, I'm with you, man. I'm 100% with you. That's the frustrating thing about it.
Average. We're calling for average. That's all we're calling for right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike Huff says it's hard to fathom that this O-line is so bad, have a long way to go to be below average. I mean, I think they're below average now. I don't think that they're below average is what I mean. Like, I think they already are below average.
Yeah.
They just need to be average. It's frustrating. John Zabrowski says, Brian, in summary, Shakespeare would say Kyron is the perfect 3-act play, block, run, pass. Okay. Today he was more 2 of those. The running part wasn't really there for him today.
Yeah.
Chris Ayers says the delayed handoff when you can't push the line of scrimmage, just what hasn't worked. It has when they were spread out. When they had a couple 3rd and long draws against Florida State that went for 12 yards. That's why I keep saying spread it out. Yeah. Now I think also you're then playing into how Kyron's running right now. If you go 11 personnel and you get everybody detached, now it's almost like your inside zone is Kyron just kind of saying, hey, find daylight.
Yep.
You know, and then you're playing to how he's playing right now. You know, I do not envy Tommy Rees right now. I don't, Vince. I don't, being in a situation to say, how do I design a game plan against Wisconsin and then Cincinnati and then Virginia Tech and then USC and North Carolina when I don't know if my offensive line can do basic things.
Yeah.
You know, I just, it's not good. All right. A lot of talk about Arkansas. They beat Texas, and that game wasn't really competitive.
Right.
I believe so. Yes, Neil.
Yeah.
I believe they have done some things like that with him.
Yeah. He wouldn't have said the word Wildcat if it's not, I mean, every team has a package, and who else would you put there besides Avery Davis? And we know that they are okay with him throwing the ball based on the 2-point play that they had. So they've absolutely worked on that.
Preston asks, how many snaps did the freshman receivers get today? I don't know. I didn't see Lorenzo Styles. I'm not saying he didn't play. I just didn't notice him. I did see Deion Colsey in there. He was actually open on a crossing route. Jack missed him.
Okay.
He was coming a backside on a crossing route where I think if you'd have hit him with the ball quickly, he might have been able to catch it and get upfield for 6, 7, 8 yards.
Yeah, they basically
he didn't play much.
They come in when Notre Dame stretches the field with the receivers, and then they come off down the field, and then those young
Right.
guys come in for a play
Right.
while it gives those guys a chance to come. That's
Right.
basically what they're being used for right now.
Right. Got another super chat down there, Vince, if you want to grab it.
I can grab it. Corey D, thanks for the super chat. Says Drew Pyne can not only move around, but he can give the Irish a spark. Pyne should start next week. Am I crazy? He's not ready to be the starter. I mean, it's the same kind of a conversation we've had about Tyler Buckner. I mean,
and let's not forget, Vince, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got to say this. Remember when we talked about post-game of the blue gold game when Drew was getting hit in the face all the time and he was rushing throws and everyone's like, well, Drew doesn't have mobility.
He's terrible, yeah.
You know, look, if you put Drew Pyne in the game for 4 quarters, he's going to have similar problems to what Jack Coan's having.
Right.
He just is. You know, he made some plays. He made some great plays today. He did some things today that we've seen Jack Coan do. Let's not forget that Jack Coan came out in the third quarter against Florida State and went 8 of 8 for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
And let's not forget that last week against Purdue, he came out in the second half and went 6 of 9 for 137 yards and a touchdown. Okay. Drew Pyne went 6 of 8 and 81 yards. And I'm not coming down on Drew. Everybody knows I love Drew. I've been talking Drew up for a while. But let's not pretend that Jack Coan's just sucked for 4 games. That's my frustration.
Sure.
Is that it's the backup quarterback syndrome. We're going to pick everything apart of what happened with Jack.
Right.
Well, Jack's not seeing the pressure. I thought I saw Drew Pyne got hit in the back today and fumble a football. Right? Didn't that happen? Didn't I see that happen today?
I saw it.
Okay. So they've had 2 different quarterbacks that have been blindsided 3 times in 4 games and lost the ball.
Right.
The problem's not the quarterback. It's the line. Okay?
Exactly.
I love Drew Pyne. I'm just not ready to throw Jack Coan under the bus and then throw Drew Pyne in there, and then he's going to deal with the same crap that Jack Coan's been dealing with. Because Jack's bigger. He has a bigger body. He can take that punishment a little bit better.
Good
and here's
point.
the other thing. Once you bench Jack Coan, you will lose him.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get benched and then mentally stay in enough to come back. So just understand that. Are you ready to do that right now? Because of what Drew Pyne did in a quarter and a half. And I love what Drew Pyne did. But we've seen Jack Coan have periods, stretches like that in every game he's played so far.
Correct.
Every one. So, you know, that's where my frustration comes from and we always see this with backup quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And when Drew Pyne, if Drew Pyne starts next week and he struggles, it's going to be, well, you know, that's why they need to Buckner or that's why they should have started Jack anyway. You know, and I appreciate the super chat, Corey, but Pyne should start next week if Jack Coan's not healthy. And I mean like 100% physically healthy. I would honestly, this is where I kind of maybe disagree with Brian Kelly a little bit. I think he's, well, let's assume that Brian Kelly means what he says. And when I say that, that's not a shot on Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly said exactly what he should have said after the game. Even if he does have doubt about Jack being healthy, because he can always go back and say, well, his ankle hasn't responded to treatment like we thought.
He left himself out.
I actually really respected the fact that Coach Kelly said after the game, Jack's our guy.
And he was adamant.
And you know what? Good on him.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's what he should have done. Because if he changes his mind down the road, it's okay. You know, we watch some film. Jack's not healthy, yada, yada, yada. But Jack needs to be your guy. You need to tell your team Jack's still our guy.
Yep.
That's where I'm at.
There's a couple things in here I want to address. It says, any chance ND versus Cincinnati gets moved to a night game? Nope, because that's a home game for Notre Dame. They don't move things. This has nothing to do with TV. They don't. Well, it has everything to do with TV. That's 2:30 game. Yeah,
it's not that dynamic, that scheduling where ESPN will wait and Fox will wait a week or two. They have their Notre Dame's home schedule is set.
Correct.
For the kickoff time.
Yes, USC and UNC are the 2 night games, and they're back to back, and that's it. So, I just wanted to get that out of there. That was an easy one to answer. We do have another super chat while you're looking. Brandon Plensner, thanks, Brandon. He says we'll watch this back later, but wanted to drop in and say go Irish. How about that defense? By the way, how about calling Arkansas and NC State, Brian and D-Rock? So there you go.
Because I actually predicted I predicted NC State to beat Clemson. We do our breakdown, our game predictions.
Yeah.
Somebody in this show forgot to hit send on their predictions, so we lost those.
Probably didn't even get published. I'm guessing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna say who that was, but I can't remember the scores I predicted though. I predicted Arkansas to win 24-16. They won 20-10. I was close. And I predicted NC State to win 24-20. They won 27-21. So I was close. A lot closer than I was in the Notre Dame game.
Wow. We would have been real close if it wasn't for the defense. Picking 6 all over the place.
Yeah.
Holy cow, man.
And somebody just put something in the chat. I've got to see if this is true. Bowling Green just beat the fighting PJ Flex 14-10 at Minnesota.
Shut the front door.
Vince, final score. I'm looking at it. PJ Flex team lost to freaking Bowling Green at home. At home.
Bye, PJ. He's gonna
Purdue won. They're 3-1 now. Yeah, now I'm so glad because now I don't have to ever hear about anyone talking about PJ Fleck being the next head coach of Notre Dame ever.
Yeah, you'll still hear it. No, you'll still hear it.
Yep.
You'll still hear it. He's going to row his boat to the unemployment line.
Can we haven't talked about, I mean, look, Clemson's out, right?
Oh, 100%.
It's September 25th, and barring just the most bizarre season ever, meaning every conference champ has 2 losses, Clemson's out. They're out.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, this is there for Notre Dame, man.
They're not even going to make the ACC championship at this point.
Look, they're out, and Ohio State already has a loss. Oh my gosh, Notre Dame, get the offensive line fixed.
Well, and everybody was talking about A&M being this dark horse. They're out.
Oh, I never bought that nonsense.
I know you didn't.
know. I'm not saying that to you, man. That's a response to the people.
It's
that
like
say those
people,
things.
like all the teams that people thought were so good. They're getting L's, man. Like,
yes,
and it's early.
Yes.
It's not even October yet.
Yes, it's
freaking great, by the way.
Gideon Rosa says, Notre Dame football, I got a friend who thinks O-line trouble is lack of talent. How do I convince him otherwise? Okay, here's all I would say. Okay, when the Jeff Quinn either can't recruit or he can't coach, pick one and move on from him for either reason. Right? Because if the players aren't good, then he did a poor job recruiting them, right?
Right.
He's now in his 4th year here, so you can't sit there, right? So pick a lane and go with it. But look, it's not a talent problem. And the other part of it is Notre Dame doesn't need to have the 2017 O-line. We've said this a million times. They don't have to have Quentin Nelson, Mike McGlinchey. That's not where they're at right now. It's just about, look, just don't be awful. That's not an expectation, an unreal expectation. Just be a solid group.
Right.
The talent is there. Because here's, I think, the problem that people have is people are completely incapable of having a rational conversation about where it is. It's either they're like 2020 or it's okay being awful.
Right.
It's like people can't say, look, do they have a talent problem compared to what they were last year? Yes. I don't think this offensive line has the talent in this season to be what last year's offensive line was. I don't think Josh Luggs is as good as Robert Hainsey. I don't think that Zeke Correll or Andrew Christopher are as good as Aaron Banks. I don't think Tosh Baker as a redshirt freshman is as good as Liam Eichenberg. They're never going to look like last year's line.
Yeah.
We've never said that they should. But to then say, okay, but then what should the reasonable expectation be? And ask your friends this, what should be so are you saying that Notre Dame's talent is that of an awful offensive line that can't block anybody? That's their talent level? Then say, okay, well then who's responsible for that? Because either way, if the talent level is what's dictating this, then the offensive line coach did a horrible job recruiting and developing.
Right. So the buck has to stop someplace.
Move on. And if it's not again, it's a combination of a couple things. It's a group that hasn't played together a whole lot, with a group that has a coach who doesn't teach technique very well, has never been a coach that was overly fond of scheme preparation. It was always, we're going to focus on watching practice over opponent game film. That's just a fact. That's what we've been told for years. And the one exception to that was last year when Harry Hiestand and Chris Watt were involved in what was going on. Chris Watt directly, Harry Hiestand indirectly. That's just a fact. So, people can bury their head in the sands and say, oh, it's a talent problem and all that. Okay, talent relative to what? Are you telling me that the talent is only as good as what we've seen? It's not. Is the talent as good as what it was last year? Of course not. But no one's ever said that it should be. That's never been in the debate. That is a false flag that people use to try to justify what we're seeing instead of being able to. I don't know why people are. This is the other thing that frustrates me. Why are for some, it's so easy for them to say that 20-year-old's the problem, that 19-year-old's the problem, that 22-year-old's the problem. It ain't the 50-year-old that makes six figures. He ain't the problem. It's not the guy that's professionally paid to put a better unit on the field. No. It's not his problem. It's that college player's problem. That guy that's, that kid that's supposed to coach himself, apparently. Well, I don't understand why that is so much easier for some people to just say it's the player's fault than it is for them to say, hey, look, I watched this team play, I watched that team play, I watched that team play. There's something different about how they play compared to what I see at Notre Dame. They don't make those same mistakes. They don't do this. They don't do that. Why? Is it because the players are stupid? Is it because the players aren't smart? Are they not talented? Are they unathletic? Or are they not being prepared? But either one, the responsibility is on the coach. You either recruited bad players or you're not coaching up your good players. Pick a lane, and either lane should end with the same result.
Agreed. I have nothing else to add to that rant. I have nothing else to add.
I don't appreciate you calling it a rant.
Well, but, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That soliloquy that you put forth.
Yeah. Yeah, we get a lot of comment about that today, and I wanted to do that at the end because there was a lot to come today, and I didn't want the show to start off talking about the O-line,
right? When
the reality is this was a really good day.
Pretty much all the comments are about the O-line down here, and I get it. I get it, guys. I totally get why everybody's frustrated. I do, but this is what we're dealing with, and hopefully it gets better, but. Oh, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. And look, somebody asked in there someplace, is Kelly going to have a conversation with Jeff Quinn? No. I mean, if he hasn't had it yet, he's not going to have it after this game. I mean, you guys have to understand what's happening and what the dynamic is. He's the offensive line coach. If nothing's happened yet, if he hasn't had that conversation, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Things are going to continue.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just the way it is. And we can all be frustrated about it. We can complain about it, but it's not going to change. And we all have to just accept it. We don't have to be happy about it, but we got to accept it.
Right. Here's another one. Michael Hahn says, I know you don't think it matters, but everyone else sees all these teams having a bye before the game. We see it too. That. We've talked about it. Sure. If it doesn't matter, why are these teams doing it? And if it matters so much, why does Notre Dame not lose to all these teams? Like Wisconsin had a bye week before they played Notre Dame.
How'd that work out for them?
I mean, some of Notre Dame's worst losses have come after bye weeks. Remember the 2011 USC game? I just look. We've said there are some advantages to a bye week. I've never denied those. What they don't matter is they don't necessarily impact winning or losing, but they rarely do. And sometimes I think if anything, they have a greater impact on losing, because what you have is some coaches that misuse bye weeks because they think bye weeks equal, hey, we can go out and put some new stuff in, right? I think where bye weeks are effective, bye weeks are super effective when you need to get healthy.
Right.
Because you know what Notre Dame had the week before they played Michigan in 2019? And a bye week.
They got hammered.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's a lot of comments in here, and we're not going to necessarily put them up about Pyne needs to be the starter, but we address that.
Right.
We address that. He's the backup. He played great for a quarter and a half, but it's the backup quarterback syndrome. So we're going to let it go with that. And we're going to have a lot of time to talk about this stuff as we move into the week. And look, I was super happy to see him come in and do well. Absolutely. I thought he did a great job. He deserves a game ball.
I guess that's kind of my frustration is why can't we just enjoy what Drew did without completely ignoring the fact that Jack Coan did this against Florida State. Jack Coan did this against Toledo. Jack Coan did this against Purdue. Did the same thing. Drew Pyne went 6 of 8 in the second half for 81 yards and a touchdown. Love it.
Right.
Jack Coan in the second half against Purdue went 6 of 9 for 137 yards and a touchdown. Had another touchdown dropped. Jack Coan in the third quarter against Florida State when Notre Dame was losing goes 8 of 8 for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. So can we stop pretending like Jack Coan has sucked for 3 games? And that's what bothers me is because now I have to it seems like I'm down on Drew. I'm not.
Not at all.
If Notre Dame decided, if Brian Kelly decided that this offense would work better with Drew Pyne at quarterback, okay, let's roll. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I think that's unfair. I think we've seen this. I'm 43 years old. I've been following football my whole life. And I used to be more of an NFL guy than college. And I've seen this so many thousands of times in the NFL. Scott Mitchell, Rob Johnson. We see it all the time. Some guy comes off the bench, plays 3 games, looks great. Some stupid team pays him a ton of money to be their starting quarterback, and he sucks. You know what I mean? Like Matt Castle replaces Tom Brady. No pressure on him. Hey, Tom Brady's out. Nobody's thinking the Patriots are going to do anything, right?
Right.
Leads to 11-5. He leaves, goes, gets his money. Where'd he go? Like Casey or something? What did Matt Castle ever do anywhere else?
Right.
It's a whole different animal when you're the backup quarterback. Does that mean that Drew can't play? Yes, Drew can play. But if you put Drew at quarterback and the offensive line doesn't get better, in 3 games, we're going to be talking about the same stuff about Drew Pyne that we're talking about with Jack Coan.
Here we go. Randall. The funny thing is, all these people were begging for Buckner to start last week. He's not wrong. I'm not saying it's specific, and we're not calling anybody out, but it's a fact. I mean, how many times do we have to try to squash that conversation? Oh, Buckner needs to be the starter. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same situation, and it's frustrating. And here we go. Tara. I apologize if I get that wrong. Trixie. Drew Pyne did not spark this win. Chris Tyree did.
Yeah. Drew Pyne getting hit from behind and fumbling the ball allowed Wisconsin to take a 4th quarter lead. I don't blame Drew for that. I don't blame Drew for that at all.
No.
But you, Vince, you were in that stadium. I could hear it on the TV. That place had turned towards Wisconsin. The momentum of that game was all Wisconsin. And Tara's absolutely right. It was the kick return by Chris Tyree. You could just hear, because the way they had the stadium set up, because it was like Notre Dame, Wisconsin, you can hear the noise shift from one side of the TV to the other side of the TV during that return.
That's great.
You know what I mean?
That's great.
And then Drew came out the next time they got the ball, and he was great.
Yes.
He was great. But the special teams and the defense had 2 series. He had the kick return and then the defense with a great series after that gave Notre Dame momentum back. And then Drew did what he needed to do. And again, I'm not trying to come down on Drew because I love how Drew played.
Me too.
Look, I had an artitle that blew up during that game. When Drew led them on that series, 1,000 people at a time were reading this article. And the title of the article was "Overlook Drew Pyne at Your Own Peril." And all summer, we had to deal with, I'll bet you, similar people that are coming at me now with Drew Pyne needs to start. They were saying, well, Drew Pyne can't play. Because why? Because look what he did in the spring game.
Right.
When he was rushing throws and he wasn't handling pressure right and all that other kind of stuff. Drew Pyne can play. And if they decide to start him, I'm good with that. Jack Coan should still be their starting quarterback as long as he's healthy. Because Jack has also done some really good things this week. After 2 games, people are talking about Jack Coan being a Heisman Trophy candidate. And now 2 weeks later, he needs to get benched.
He's benched.
For a 4-0 team.
Right.
Come on now.
Right.
This is a good question, John. Why doesn't Chris Tyree get more touches? How come Williams doesn't get punished for fumbling? Mistakes like that would put others in Kelly's doghouse.
But he's so good at other he's the most complete back that they have. That's why he's not getting benched. That's the part of the question that I'm answering. And
I think John's point is not necessarily that Kyron shouldn't get benched, but it's why they're that double standard.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, look.
But he was part of that when he fumbled early on in the season 2 years ago. He didn't see the field again.
Right. Well, he didn't fumble. He dropped the pass.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, you're right. It was a swing.
But pass. I was told at the time they were not going to play him more than 4 games that year anyway. The only reason he even played against Louisville is because 2 guys were hurt.
Yeah.
But the point is we've seen, Lawrence Keys last year fumbles a punt return against Florida State, and Florida State gets it and goes down and scores, and we don't hear from Lawrence Keys basically again the rest of the year. Yet Kyron Williams basically almost cost them the game against Toledo.
Yeah.
Which Kyron, I'm not telling you something, Kyron said that.
Yeah.
That's what Kyron said, which is why he bounced back with such a great performance last week against Purdue. I love Kyron. But the point is, it's not like Kyron's you say he's a complete back. Yes, he is, but he's also a complete back that has a tendency to put the ball on the ground.
Sure, absolutely.
And the other thing is, even if Kyron didn't have a fumbling problem, do you see Chris Tyree? Look, again, play them together. I'm not advocating take Kyron out more. I'm saying put them both on the field together more.
Yeah, no doubt. We've been calling for that forever. I mean, it's so the first part of the question, why does Tyree not get more touches? I don't know.
I think it's one of those things where it's in their defense. Who do you take off the field? Because if if you're gonna put Tyree in the game, then you're either taking Kyron or Avery Davis off the field right now.
True, because they're not going to take Michael Mayer off the field.
They're both pretty good.
Yeah, they're not going to take Michael Mayer
I would
off
like
the
to
field.
see that, actually. I would like to see Michael Mayer come off the field in some 20 personnel at times, meaning that's a way to give him a breather because he can't play every snap, right?
Sure.
Go some and instead of putting Takis in the game because George is not playing well right now.
He's not.
He's not.
I agree.
Instead of putting another tight end in the game, go 20 personnel. So then you've got Avery, Kevin, Braden, or some combination of those three receivers, and then you've got Chris and Kyron, and then see what you do. And then maybe you do that for a couple plays, give Michael a breather, and bring him back in. So I'm not saying anything negative about Michael Mayer, just that hey, he's going to need a breather too. Skill guys actually do need breathers because they run 30, 40 yards at a time. So
and they do that.
I actually wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing that a little.
Fair enough.
To be honest with you. Here's a good question, Vince. Beast Daniel, half glass full. Is there a better front seven they'll face? Maybe only one.
Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would argue this. I think that Wisconsin is better 1-7. The best player that they'll face is the end that they're going to place next week in Jayson Sanders. I don't think Cincinnati's necessarily as good at inside linebackers, Wisconsin. I think that their tackles their big guys are similar. The thing that sets Cincinnati apart is Sanders. But as a unit, Beast, you got a good point.
Yeah.
Because definitely not Virginia Tech, definitely not USC. Again, USC's got a great player, Drake Jackson, but not a great front seven.
Correct.
Not North Carolina, not Virginia.
Well, I mean, now that you're getting to the end of the schedule, it's not.
Yeah, not Stanford, not Navy, not Georgia Tech. So, no, I don't know if they play a better front seven than what they played today.
Right. So, I mean, they passed the test. But
they're definitely going to play better front sevens than Purdue and Toledo and Florida State.
Right.
And they had the same problems against those teams.
The defense passed the test because they cheated. I mean, the offensive line passed the test because they cheated off the defensive paper. Like,
right.
That's why they passed the test.
And the special team. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
That's a great way of looking at it. I love it.
Here, I'm going to let you try this name. Boot God.
Yeah.
So anyway, it says, I think you guys missed my super chat unless you're getting to it. We must have, and I apologize. Do not send us another one. Just send us your question.
What was your question? Yeah.
And we will get to it. I apologize wholeheartedly. Again, you guys are sending so many comments that it's like just kicking us consistently.
Right.
I'm
trying to see if I can find his. I'm trying to go see if I
didn't
can
see
find
it.
it.
I
here we go. It's still there. Here we go.
Did you find it?
Yeah, I did. It was about Tyree. So here we go. Tyree needs more touches. Just get him the ball in space, whether it's sweeps, wheels, releases. Just give him the ball more in space. Thoughts, 3 touches.
Could not agree more.
And look, we've seen them do the things that you're advocating for. He caught a little kind of like mini wheel route against Purdue last week, went 19 yards.
Right.
He did that same week before against Toledo, went 55 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you because, I mean, I've always said like a play that Kyron Williams can take for 50 yards, Chris Tyree can take to the house. So that doesn't mean you don't give Kyron Williams those touches, but maybe some of them you can design. Plus, I think if they were to utilize Chris Tyree in more of these things, jets, reverses, and sweeps and things like that, that would then open up more running room for Chris Tyree or Kyron Williams.
Yeah.
Out of the 20%, you'd like send them on some things like that. So I agree with you. I would like to see more of that, in my opinion. Yes, Chris Tyree needs more touches. And I'm not saying at the expense of Kyron Williams. As we've said, we'd like to see them doing that together.
Absolutely. You can have too much of a good thing. Okay. Just saying.
Yes. Here's a great one, Vince. Richard McGinnis says Drew Pyne looks like he played point guard in high school basketball.
That's all we need. It's all Notre Dame needs. Okay?
I literally wrote an article this summer called Drew Pyne is the prototype point guard quarterback.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yep. Let me see here. Larry Friedel. Quinn will not get fired. Manning is not coming to Notre Dame. Please move on.
That should be like in the background. Like you just it's just right here. Just
this is a good question. This is a good question right here.
What do you got?
Chris Ayers. How much better would the O-line play be if Fisher was healthy?
I don't know.
I think it would be better because he's that good. I mean, that's the thing about Blake Fisher is we saw that even in the first half against Florida State. There were some things you could overcome just because he's so talented and he's so big and so physical. And that's why I posited a theory on message board last night that my hope is that Tosh Baker plays so well between now and the time that Blake Fisher comes back that you move Blake to right tackle and then move Lugg into guard.
Inside. I'm telling you, I've been calling for that for a week and a half now. I think that's the move. When Blake Fisher's healthy, I think
Tosh has got to prove himself, though. And that's the problem is I don't know if Tosh is going to prove himself because I don't think Tosh is being prepared to coach in that regards.
This is a question that I wanted to ask you earlier when we were talking about the line. Did Rocco Spindler get in the game at all today?
I didn't see him, no.
Okay, I didn't either. But I just wanted to see if you saw him.
Part of me wonders if he's injured. I mean, I know he's been in practice, but like, is he injured or something like that? It's kind of confusing because it's like, I don't know. I don't get it. It's the line, the guards have been bad. I mean, it's not like they're okay. They're bad. I'm going to go back and look too. I did see some nice blocks from Kristofic today. Now that could have just been coincidence that I just noticed them, but I thought I have to go back and watch it again. But I thought he did some good.
And they said that was part of the game plan to get him in for Zeke because he's bigger and could move guys or whatever his excuse was. But that was part of the game plan.
Yep. Jeff Hay, Drew Pyne appears to be a Baker Mayfield type. Your thoughts?
He's not as athletic though, is he? You're saying
Well, but see, Baker didn't really run in college. I think where Drew and Baker are similar is, again, you remember Baker as a redshirt junior or a redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior, and a redshirt senior, right? I mean, he was a 5-year player, I believe, correct?
He was there for a while, yeah. He transferred
because he was at Texas Tech at first,
right?
But Baker wasn't a guy that really did a lot of running. He would use his athleticism to buy time in the pocket. That's what we saw Drew Pyne do that. He took off running, throws across his body.
That was nice.
Hits Michael Mayer, it was Avery Davis.
And he would have done it again when he got sacked, but he ran into his own guy. I want to say it was Michael Mayer that he ran into. He ran it. I mean, he was getting ready to escape out the right-hand side, and he just right into his own guy. He wouldn't have taken a sack on that one.
Yeah. Baker actually ran a little bit more than I thought he did. He had 311 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns in 2017. So he actually ran more than I thought he did. So and he had 6 rushing touchdowns for 177 yards the year before. So you could be right on that. But I think Drew's a pretty decent athlete. But I think Baker wasn't great because he ran for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. Baker was great because and this is where I think Jeff is coming from. Smart, super accurate, super quick release, small, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's Baker won the Heisman because of what he did with his arm, not what he did with his legs. And I think that's to me where those comparisons could hold water and why I've never kind of obsessed over the fact that Drew isn't a very big guy because no one's, this is a different game. The shotgun has changed the game when it comes to quarterback size. It just has. But some really good comments and questions here down as we're getting down to some of these. So
I love this. Craig Sebring, love when Drew Pyne did the Conor McGregor after he threw that touchdown pass.
What's that? I know who Conor McGregor is, but oh my God, Vince is going to dance. Oh, okay, is that how? What is he like coming to the ring that way, or is it like
that doesn't do it for you?
No, that's great. I don't watch MMA, so I know who Conor McGregor is, but
I saw him do it, and I was like, man, that kid's got some swag, man. It's one thing I love about Drew Pyne. Like I said, when he's in practice, he is the hype machine. Like he gets everybody fired up, and he gets fired up himself.
You can see the way the players respond to him.
Yes,
there were no heads hanging when he went in the game. Receivers weren't like not running their routes. I mean, like. You made the comment about Kevin Austin ran that route like he knew he wasn't the main guy, but he also ran that route like he thought he might get the ball.
Yeah.
And that's because I guarantee you in practice, Drew has gone to his second and third reads and things like that, which is what Jack did early in the season until you keep getting hit in the face too much. But that's got to be partly on Jack too. He's got to start hey, look, man, this is the way it is.
Yeah,
You're gonna
right.
so you gotta
It's not.
You got to
changing.
get that ball out, man.
It's
you know,
just not changing anytime soon, man. Which is frustrating. I get it, Jack, but
Yep. I do think that we can end the conversation about whether or not Wisconsin made a mistake to stick with Graham Mertz over Jack Coan. I think that conversation is dead.
For me, that conversation was dead, before. But now after this game, it's absolutely dead.
Yes. Because if you think Jack Coan played bad. He didn't throw 4 picks in this game, okay? So here we go. All right, let's and at the end of the day, that's what matters. Brian Denbo, how long will Blake be out? It was 6 to 8 weeks. I've heard that there's a chance it may be a little bit longer.
For some reason, I was thinking USC-ish.
Yeah, it would be, I think, let me look at the schedule here real quick. 8 weeks. He got hurt in the opener, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'd be North Carolina at 8 weeks would be it. 8 weeks is North Carolina. So then 6 weeks would be maybe the bye week. But from what I'm told, there's a chance it'll be if it'll be closer to the longer section, then it will be closer. It'll be closer to the 8 weeks than anything else.
Gotcha.
Assuming there's no setbacks. That's the concern for me.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a super chat from Mike Ford.
There we go.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate it. He says, I found you guys this last week. Good stuff. In my opinion, Drew has the Deshaun Kaiser type of feel. Don't you feel as though he has the notorious IT?
It.
Yeah, so he's got
that it.
Yeah, right.
I never felt Deshaun Kaiser had that.
He didn't have it in the locker room.
And that's exactly it, though.
Completely different
that
scenario.
Right there is the biggest difference between those two.
Yeah.
Notre Dame players would not go to war with Deshaun Kaiser.
Correct.
Notre Dame players will go to war with all the quarterbacks they have
no question.
Including Drew Pyne.
Yep.
And I think the way that Drew handled – like Brian Kelly said something on the TV copy after the game, Vince. You didn't get a chance to hear this.
I did not, no.
They talked about Drew, and he said, look, he was here. We brought in a transfer, and he talked about how Drew handled that with maturity and poise. And let me tell you something. If you know Drew Pyne's family at all, you're not shocked at all that he's a mature kid. You're not shocked at all. But he's a great kid, and he handled that. I mean, in this era of transferring, a lot of quarterbacks would have said, and they wouldn't have left 2 fingers up when they did this, right?
They've been reading
that
between
pointer
the lines.
finger, this finger would have come down. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a fact, right? I mean, but Drew handled it like a champ. And then when his number was called, he was ready to go. Because why? Because as you've said, Vince, when he's not in there, he's locked in. He's watching. He's. I mean, and I've heard nothing but great things about Drew. It's just Jack is better in their mind, and Tyler is more dynamic. He brings a different skill set. And this is what was annoying about, they kept talking about, the third string quarterback. No.
I actually said that out loud because I had like my earpiece in, right? My headphones. Mm-hmm. And I was like, he's not the third string quarterback. And people started looking at me. I'm like, but he's not. People, come on, man, do some homework.
At the end of the day, we can have all, here's say at the end of the day, we can debate this all we want. I know I'm in the minority here, apparently, based on how this is going, but I don't care who they start at quarterback.
And we've said that.
I have confidence in all these guys. But the fact is that Jack Coan is the starter. He won it over a period of months. He has played an instrumental role in Notre Dame's 4-0 start, as did Drew Pyne today.
Yes.
But as was it Trixie? Was it what was the first name? I forget what her first name was. I think her last name was Tara Trixie, right? Yeah. Notre Dame didn't get the lead back with Drew Pyne at quarterback or Jack Coan or Tyler Buckner. They got the lead back with the special teams and Chris Tyree.
Yeah.
And that was about one of the only highlights of the special teams today, by the way, except that and Jay Bramlett's bomb.
70-something yard punt. Holy crap. Every once in a while, he unleashes one. You're like,
whoa. Well, and he had another one that he pinned him inside the 10. He's such a weapon. I mean, he's gonna give them a short field every now and then because he doesn't have that monster leg. If he's kicking from his own deep territory, but that one was a bomb.
Got a couple more super chats I want to get to. Thank you, Spark5219. Really appreciate that. And this one down.
There's another. Was that David Knight?
It is. Big David Knight, thank you, sir. I've been saying this one game at a time. Just get another W and keep practicing. ND fans, please stop lining up in front of our new QBs. A handful of plays does not make you a starter. Jack Coan is the man, and let it go.
Yes, and now could that prove otherwise, David? Could in a few weeks you could say, hey, look, Jack's the pressure's getting to Jack. Not pressure of being at Notre Dame, but the pressure of the line,
right?
And and it comes time for a change. I'm not saying that may not come. It's just not here now.
Correct.
That's my thing. But we do this all the time. It's once when it was, I can't wait till Brandon Wimbush starts, and then as soon as Brandon Wimbush had a bad game, I can't wait till it's Ian Book's team time, and then Ian Book has a bad game, I can't wait till it's for Drakovic's time.
Right.
Now, in that instance, should have happened. But then it's like, Jack Coan is going to be better than Ian Book, which I believe and still believe. And now it's like, forget Jack Coan, it's Tyler Buckner. And then a week later, it's forget Jack Coan. Now it's Drew Pyne.
I think it's hilarious. At this point.
I get that. That's part of the passion of the game, but at the same time, it's like let's be a little bit more. Let's have a conversation about it instead of just saying, "Hey, this kid stinks." Let's not dismiss what Jack Coan has done to get to the starting job. He wasn't handed the starting job because he's the veteran.
No, he
was handed
the
starting job because he won the starting job.
Yeah, he earned it, no question,
and
he earned it.
He's got to play better, right? But, and then what will happen next week is let's say Jack's not 100%, Drew starts, Drew struggles or something like that, and then Jack Coan says, well, see, this is why he should have been a starter. Okay.
Just wait till Ronnie Paulus III gets in, Brian.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I forgot about him.
I had to put it there. He was there today. He wasn't dressed. He hasn't. I don't think he's dressed all year. But anyway.
I've heard he's injured.
He is. He's got like a foot or something like that. Yeah. Brad S., I wanted to hit this because it'll take us off the quarterback talk for a minute. Do you think that they will replace Clarence Lewis starting?
I don't think he played that bad. I don't think he's now, because then Chris Tyree had a couple times he got beat once today where they missed him on a throw. I don't know if Tariq Bracey's played. Did I say Chris Tyree?
You did.
I meant to say Tariq Bracey. I don't know if Tariq's played well enough to say, okay, supplant him. Ramon Henderson definitely hasn't played well enough to say supplant him.
No,
so I don't know. I
don't think to start.
Yeah. Do I think Clarence played well enough to where his job should be secure just because? No. I just don't know who that answer would be, Brad. So I'm not against what you're saying. I don't think Clarence has played bad, though. I think he had some bad snaps today. He had a couple nice snaps, too, We tend to only see cornerbacks on the plays where they get thrown at. That we don't see them on the times where they had the coverage where it needed to be. So I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet. I don't think he played that bad. Now, if he keeps making some of the pass interference penalties in the end zone that he's made and gets beat for touchdowns like he did today, then we maybe want to go back to that. But you're muted, by the way, Vince.
Yeah, I know. I was just breathing. I thought this. Oh God, please no more Ron Paulus. If Ron Paulus III gets in the game, it'll be as like a tight end. I don't ever see him lining up behind center, but that's a different conversation. Triple Deck Pro with a super chat. Thank you, Triple Deck Pro.
Yep.
The most popular talked about player at ND is the backup quarterback. I believe Lou Samoji used to bring that up a lot.
All the time.
Because
Lou loved saying that, and he was 100% right.
Because he's right.
And if you think Lou brought that up in public, you should have heard how many times Lou brought that up in the office away from the public. And he was right. I mean, he was 100%. And because Lou is speaking from – he would tell me stories about some of the letters they would get. Because remember back in 88, 89, there was no internet and all that. Al Gore hadn't invented it yet. I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. But he did get letters to the Blue and Gold office, and it'd be these letters about how Tony Rice stinks. And Lou would actually answer. People would call Blue and Gold office, and he would answer the phone and talk to people. Right. Unlike Tom Lemming, he didn't charge people for it. He should have, because he would have made some money. But he would say like, "Oh, Tony Rice stinks, and they need to bench." And this is during the 1988 season, and at times during 1989 season, people would write letters about how Tony Rice needs to get benched. And I don't even know who the backup quarterback. Oh, Rick Meyer in '89. Rick Meyer wasn't the backup quarterback in '88. Rick didn't get there 89, right?
Or 90. I mean, I don't know.
He started in 90, but he wasn't a true freshman. I think he was a second-year player. I think he was on the team in '89. I think he was part of the '89 recruiting class. I think that because he could have come back in '93. but he went to the NFL. But that would have been his 5th year. So 89, 90, 91, 92. Yeah, so 89. So anyway, but he said that, I mean, always. I mean, I think the only quarterback that never dealt with that was Brady Quinn, because he did not have a backup quarterback.
No.
So, but when Jimmy Clausen I literally knew people in 09 that said, boy, they need to get rid of Jimmy and start Dane. And I liked Dane, and I'm still like, what? Have you watched this kid play?
I thought Dane Christ was going to have a much better career.
Oh, so did I. But Jimmy Clausen in 09 was a monster.
Oh, for sure.
But there are still people that don't think he was that good that year. And what people also know, he was playing on one leg in 89. Okay, thank you, Travis. I thought that was the case, but Lou would talk about this all the time. How it didn't matter who was a quarterback. They would get letters at BGI about whoever the backup quarterback is needs to replace him.
Connor Patton with a super chat says, do you think Notre Dame is in a position to fly under the radar and surprise people late in the season? No, because they're going to be one of the only undefeated teams in the country.
They will not be under the radar if they win next weekend.
Right, absolutely. Just a fact. They're not going to fly. They're Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a hard time flying.
Have you seen the spread yet for next week yet? Has the spread come out for next week's game?
I haven't, but I'll look it up.
Because Notre Dame was favored to win that game in the summer, right?
Correct. They were only a dog in the Wisconsin game, and it was a 1.5 all summer until last week.
Okay. And then it went up. Based on what? I don't know.
Yes, it did.
But it went up.
Way up.
Yes.
Which was
still don't understand that, but it is what it is.
Hey, benefited me.
Yeah, no kidding. I just would be curious see what that spread's going to be next week. How do you have Notre Dame as I mean, I guess at home, but 6.5 still doesn't make a lot of sense to me. KMA Preston says, how have the cornerbacks under Hart and Lewis been performing? We've really only seen Ramon Henderson. He's just kind of been okay. Not ready to really play a ton. Tariq Bracy's been solid, but he's had mistakes here and there. The corners have been good for the most part. It's just they have to, in my opinion, Vince, the corners have to just clean up some of that clean up some of that technical stuff.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding it, but the people have spoken. I believe they're saying Notre Dame is favored by 4.
Okay.
And so 3.5, 4. So I'm seeing a couple of different things. So, and of course the home team generally gets 3 points. So it's basically a push. So there you go.
Yep. So we get down here to some more.
Everybody's talking about who they want to see in the defensive backfield. Isn't JoJo injured?
JoJo's out for the year. He's got a torn ACL.
He's out for the year. So
I think if one of the freshmen were to play at corner, it'd probably be Brian Barnes, from what I'm told.
That's what I was thinking as well. He passes the eye test. Let me tell you, Ryan Barnes passes the eye test. There is no doubt about that.
Yep. Dropping. Here's dropping dimes is making a point that we were making earlier, Vince. This is why I say, if Jack's not 100%, you start Drew.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Because he's right there. If Jack's at 85, 90%, and especially if lower, he doesn't necessarily avoid the pressure. Well, and look, that's an area where Jack's got to get better. We're not saying Jack Coan's been the perfect quarterback. We're not. We're saying that Drew Pyne played a basically quarter and a half of football today.
Right.
And that doesn't all of a sudden mean you're ready to be the starter. I love what Drew. I hate having these conversations because it makes it seem like I'm ripping on Drew, and I'm not. I love Drew Pyne. I also love Jack Coan and Tyler Buckner. That's why we said this summer, I don't care who starts a quarterback. You have to make these decisions the right way.
Yep.
That's my thing.
KS says, just curious how many ND recruits came to this game. It wasn't ND's home game, so if they came, it was on their own dime.
Yeah.
Because Notre Dame was the away team. So
yeah, because you can't get them tickets, and not only that, but I got to think about what the rule is for that. But there were some. If
it's a Shamrock Series game and they're the home team, I believe
they can get, because they've had some guys there. There's some things they can do, but like they can't have officials, but they can get guys tickets or something like that. It's
right.
Yeah. Here's a good. Sam Tyrell. Here we go. I agree. Coan should be the starter. However, Brian, would you address Coan's lack of pocket awareness? I don't think Jack has bad pocket awareness. I think Jack has shown moments where he's had very good pocket awareness. For example, the game-winning touchdown pass he threw to Michael Mayer. He knew, I got to quickly climb and I got to get this thing off my back foot because Michael's coming open and I got to get the ball out. I think what is going on with Jack Coan right now is the fact that Jack again, it was in the spring and fall camp. We've been. I mean, remember how often we talked about how the offensive line just got dominated all spring by the defensive line, and we were like, "Hey, is the line this good, or is the defensive line is the line this bad, or is the defensive line that good?" And we've come to find out both. You get hit in the face so many times, you start looking for it, and that's the thing that Jack has to get better. And look, we're not running away from that fact. We talked about it last week, and I'll talk about it again this week. There were times last week when Jack missed throws because he was feeling the pressure, even when the pressure wasn't there. There were times today that he climbed the pocket, and the guards actually gave him a decent pocket to climb into.
Right.
And he was looking down. He wasn't looking up. That's something he's got to correct. That was something I used to criticize Ian Book for all the time. Jack has developed that habit these last couple weeks. I think that is something to me that I say that has to get. He's got to get better there, and that's why we leave open the notion that look, Jack Coan is not the starting quarterback at Notre Dame, guaranteed for the next eight games, in my opinion. He's got to play better than he has the last game and a half. Last two games really. Parts of the last two games. There's been times the last couple games he's done some really good things, but at times the last couple games he's allowing the pressure to cause him to miss. And it's not the sacks that bother me. It's the misses when he's not getting sacked that concern me. Sacks are going to happen. We saw that from Drew Pyne today. Drew got hit in the back. Again, let's not forget that Drew Pyne got hit in the back and fumbled and got sacked twice in a quarter and a half of football, right? So it's not like Drew was out there shaking dudes and making a miss. And Jack had a couple plays where he shook off sacks and scrambled for positive yards, right? That's what happens in a game like this is we ignore the negatives for Drew and focus on the positives, which you should do for a backup quarterback. You shouldn't hold Drew Pyne to the same standards you hold your starter to when he's thrust into that kind of situation. But then we should also – the problem is then we also ignore the plays that Jack Coan made and focus on the negatives. And so people talking about his lack of mobility and Drew's more mobile. Drew got brought down behind the pocket 3 or 4 times in a quarter and a half of football.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what, and you could even say less than that because, what was it? The last series, they were just running the clock out. They were just handing the ball off and running the clock out. So we gotta be, yeah. Anyway, got any more of these here? Let's get around some of these because we need to wrap up here. Need to wrap up here soon.
That's a good call. The natives are getting restless at my house.
I hear that.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute myself, but yeah, they're getting restless up there.
Yeah, so let's find a couple more here. Preston says it's nice to see some Drew Pyne respect. He's definitely not forgotten about with Coan transferring in, and he definitely got forgotten about with Coan transferring in and the top recruit coming in, right? That's what's so funny about now. All of a sudden, now everyone thinks he should be, he should be the starting quarterback. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, okay. I mean, listen, the offensive line needs to play better. This is not a quarterback problem. This is an offensive line problem. That's the issue. Let's get down to here. Some of these. Sam Tyrell, Jack Lasson, we were talking about the front seven. Jack thinks obviously Cincinnati front seven's in the conversation, and Jack Lasson said that he thought the front seven looked mediocre last week. That was against Murray State too, I believe. Here we go. Mike Ford was asking about super chats, and here he goes. How do you criticize? First of all, $4.99 for the super chat. Thank you. How do you criticize our O-line 30 minutes ago when Coan goes down as soon as he gets touched until a few plays today? I have no idea what that means. Are you really trying to tell me you don't think the offensive line's not playing well, or is playing well, that this is all a Jack Coan problem?
Please,
Jack Coan doesn't go down as soon as he gets touched. I mean, did he follow up on it?
I know. I'm asking him to follow up on it because I'm not sure.
There were several plays today where Jack Coan brushed off pressure and took off running and gained plays.
Right.
I mean, some of the comments I really don't understand. I mean, I could point to probably 15 throws that he's already made in 4 games where he's getting hit as he's throwing the ball. He's shown a lot of toughness. He doesn't go down as soon as he gets hits. But the other thing too is part of that is on purpose, because when here's the thing that a smart veteran quarterback is taught to do. When you're getting pressured here and here, go down.
Right, exactly.
Because you know what a lot of young quarterbacks do? They spin out and lose 6 yards.
Right.
Get sacked anyway, and you lose 6 more yards.
Somebody said he's a turtle. Well, he goes down to protect the football so that, these giant 300-pound dudes that are really strong aren't ripping the ball out of his hands. I mean, that's I have no problem with that. No problem with that.
Yeah, some of this stuff I don't get. I really don't get. Some of the stuff I don't get.
Thanks,
I think
William.
I think that's
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
David Knight pretty much nailed that one, Vince.
He's not wrong. It's not wrong.
Yeah.
The natives are restless. What can I say? I haven't seen Dad all day.
Searcher Green says, "Can we all agree Dante Moore should start next season?" Yes. We can all agree that Dante Moore should be starting next season for Martin Luther King High School, since that's the team
he will be
playing
a senior
for next season.
Yes, he will be a senior.
100% agree.
He won't be declaring early like some people.
100% agree for all of you guys. Appreciate that very, very much. So I think that's going to do it. I think everything else is kind of what we have kind of already talked about. So I appreciate everybody being part of the show. Vince, thanks for covering the game today and getting back and doing the show. I appreciate everybody being, even the people we don't agree with, we appreciate all of you.
Yeah,
that's what we like about the show. You don't have to agree with us all the time. We're going to push back on things we like, and we'll give you the opportunity to push back on things that you may or may not agree or disagree with. I think those things are all great. And I love it how we've already written off Tyler Buckner.
That's great.
Anyway, I appreciate y'all very much. Before you go, hit the like button, hit the subscription also, and the notification bell. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8:00. For our Upon Further Review show, where we're going to dive into the film tonight and tomorrow. We're going to break it all down, have some different takes, some different way of looking at it as we wrap up this show. And, of course, we'll have a ton of stuff at irishbreakdown.com as we wrap that up. If you're listening via podcast, please give us a 5-star review. We appreciate that very much. Thank you all so very, very much for being with us tonight. Thanks to everybody that gave a super chat. Everybody that didn't give a super chat, thank you also, because all of you made time out of your day to spend with us, and we truly appreciate that very, very much. So anyway, have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll talk to you again very, very soon.